This is our main character, Keita. He scored the highest on the entrance exam at his high school and is someone who deeply despises supernatural phenomena. Keita's best friend, Aiko, has repeatedly invited him to take photos together, but Keita always refuses because every time he takes a photo, it ends up distorted by some supernatural phenomenon. Keita has always had some sort of connection to the supernatural because, in the past, he was once possessed. That incident put his friends in danger, so for the next 2 years, Keita isolated himself from the world to avoid harming those around him. However, thanks to Aiko and his family, he finally gained the courage to reintegrate into society. One day, Aiko asked him about the new job she had introduced to him. Keita hadn't checked it out yet. Aiko explained that the job was tutoring, and she believed Keita would do well. Determined to reintegrate into the community, Keita decided to make an effort to suppress his body's spiritual connections. When he arrived at the job site, the intermediary gave him information about the girl he was supposed to tutor. The intermediary described her as a prodigy and asked Keita to train her well. Following the address provided by the intermediary, Keita went to the girl's house, but he found it strange because the place was clearly Aiko's house. Keita asked Aiko about the girl he was supposed to teach, and Aiko realized it was her cousin who had recently moved in. Aiko was delighted that Keita would be tutoring her cousin. She then called her cousin out, and as soon as Keita saw Aiko's cousin, he suddenly panicked. The girl had 2 skull-shaped pupils and could tell that Keita had issues with the supernatural. On top of that, the stuffed animal she was holding was possessed. Keita realized that this girl was like him. Aiko introduced her as Yaoi, and Keita told Yaoi to go to her room to begin studying. However, Yaoi wanted Keita to accompany her to a supernatural location. Keita refused, insisting he was there to be her tutor. Yaoi then called the intermediary and accused Keita of harassment, forcing him to intervene and ask Aiko to do something about it. However, Aiko also wanted to go along, so Keita couldn't escape the situation. Keita couldn't understand why Aiko was so interested in these things. She explained that Yaoi often invited her to visit supernatural locations, but since she wasn't sure about the safety, she waited until Keita was there to agree. Keita said he didn't know much about the supernatural, so Aiko promised they would leave if things truly became dangerous. However, even before they arrived, Keita already felt a chill down his spine. Seeing Keita's fear, Yaoi urged Aiko to speed up. The supernatural location they arrived at was an abandoned phone booth. Aiko explained that this place was rumored to be where a woman was murdered. The woman was a gold digger who drained her boyfriend's money. When too many of her victims were buried in debt, they decided to take revenge. The woman fled into this phone booth and was killed by the men there. She later became a ghost, haunting anyone who stepped into the booth or called her phone number. Keita asked where people got the phone number, and Aiko said it had been widely shared online. Yaoi wanted to try calling the number, but Keita stopped her. However, Aiko wanted to play along, so Keita reluctantly agreed to make the call himself. If nothing happened, he wanted the group to leave. When Keita called, a supernatural phenomenon occurred in the phone booth. Yaoi threw her stuffed animal into the booth, and it immediately exploded. After that, the group quickly left. Back at Aiko's house, Keita demanded that Yaoi start studying immediately. Aiko also had a favor to ask Keita once the lesson was over. During the lesson, Keita realized that Yaoi was indeed a genius, though slightly unhinged. Yaoi wondered why the ghost didn't appear when she entered the phone booth, but did when Keita made the call. Keita explained that his ability to summon ghosts was 100% effective, which greatly intrigued Yaoi. Later, Aiko revealed to Keita that Yaoi wasn't actually her cousin. A year ago, Yaoi's parents passed away in an accident, which is why her family adopted her. Yaoi already had the ability to see ghosts before, but during a family outing, an accident occurred that granted her exceptional intelligence. Since then, Yaoi realized she could see the scenes between 2 worlds, and during the accident, her mother was taken away by something. This became the reason she wanted to find her mother again. When Keita heard about this, he decided to help Yaoi. Yaoi, upon waking up and overhearing this from downstairs, decided to develop a liking for Keita. The next day, Yaoi gave Keita a Buddha statue to protect him from evil spirits. Later, all 3 of them returned to the haunted phone booth. However, before they could do anything, the ghost appeared on its own and dragged Keita into the phone booth. It used the phone cord to strangle Keita, and even the Buddha statue wasn't enough to protect him. Yayoi grabbed a weapon and rushed to break open the phone booth's door. She used the Buddha statue to smash the phone and cut the cord. Yayoi decided she would help Keita get rid of any ghost targeting him. The three of them then returned home, but Keita still felt the chilling sensation of encountering a ghost hadn't faded. The reason was that Yayoi had captured the ghost from the phone booth and sealed it inside her stuffed animal. When they got back to Aiko's house, Keita wondered why, despite Yayoi's strong spiritual connection, her encounters with ghosts were so few, as if the ghosts were avoiding her. It made sense, though, because the phone booth ghost had just been taken back by Yayoi to be torn apart by other spirits. The next day, Keita went to tutor Yayoi as usual, but after their lesson, Yayoi asked Keita to go to another supernatural location to play. He refused because he had something to do that day. Aiko remembered it was the day Keita needed to undergo a cleansing ritual, so she decided to accompany him. Since being possessed in the past, Keita regularly had to undergo purification at his grandmother's shrine. After a long trip, all three of them arrived at Keita's grandmother's shrine. The moment she saw Yayoi, Keita's grandmother told her to leave, as she noticed Yayoi had destroyed more than 5 Buddha statues and was carrying a vengeful spirit with her. Keita had to explain that Yayoi was his student, so he reluctantly brought her along. Keita's grandmother called him into the shrine for the cleansing ritual. Curious, Keita asked Yayoi why she destroyed Buddha statues. Yayoi explained that she did it to check if the sealed spirits inside were the ones that took her mother. During the cleansing, Keita's grandmother asked if he meditated regularly, as it would help him resist possession by evil spirits. Meanwhile, Yayoi tried to sneak a look at Keita's cleansing, but Aiko showed her a picture of Keita instead. Aiko revealed that Keita's hands grew strange hairs actually. They were his nerves that extended and caused him great pain. His grandmother often had to sedate him to trim them, but they would always grow back. After completing the cleansing ritual, Aiko and Yayoi brought food for the two. Keita went to wash his face, leaving his grandmother to reveal something to Yayoi about the shrine. It was built to store living dolls. These dolls retained the personalities of their previous owners, and in the shrine's basement were dolls with immense power. If anyone trespassed, the dolls would take over their body. Keita then found a doll on the ground and decided to bring it to his grandmother for inspection. Yayoi, upon hearing this, asked Keita's grandmother about what cursed dolls looked like. She explained that the most dangerous dolls were Japanese ones dressed in red kimonos. Realizing that Keita had been possessed by a doll, Yayoi took her grandmother's sword and went to rescue him. Keita woke up in the basement, where the doll's hair was crawling into his mouth. Yayoi arrived and tried cutting the doll's hair with the sword, but it didn't work. She then stabbed the sword into the doll's head and stomped on the blade, slicing the doll in half. Yayoi declared that if these dolls continued harming people, she would destroy every last one of them. The dolls stopped their attack, and Keita was saved. He realized that although he brought the trouble upon himself, Yayoi still chose to save him. Afterward, Keita returned home with Aiko and Yayoi. He told his grandmother that he had decided to accompany Yayoi because she was his student, and even if it was dangerous, he couldn't leave her behind. His grandmother explained that his physical abilities were meant to protect others and not to bring harm, so he needed to change his perspective about himself. She also advised him to buy some peace statues to purify the evil spirits sealed within the Buddha statues that were following Yayoi. Later, Yayoi received a gift from Keita and decided to show him her collection. When Keita returned to her house, he was shocked to see a collection of evil spirits. To make matters worse, Yayoi had brought back the doll from earlier and reattached its neck using Keita's discarded nerves. Keita wanted to leave immediately and take Aiko with him, but she insisted the stuffed toys weren't dangerous, as she had lived there for over a year without any incidents. Yayoi also reassured Keita that she wouldn't let any evil spirits harm him. The next day, Keita visited Aiko's house as usual. Though he didn't want to go, he went out of concern for Aiko. She seemed perfectly normal, just like any other day. Keita went inside, and Aiko admitted that she had been living with Yayoi for over a year without anything bad happening, so Keita didn't need to worry too much. However, Yayoi persistently asked for Keita's fingernails, making him increasingly uneasy. During their lesson, Keita felt constantly threatened by Yayoi, so Aiko suggested easing the tension by taking them both out. However, the chosen destination was a spiritual location. While Aiko and Yayoi were excited to go, Keita decided to leave. openly admitting that he disliked going to such scary places. Yayoi, who had always assumed Keita enjoyed spiritual locations, was surprised. She had invited him to these places, believing he shared her interest. In truth, Keita found the entire ordeal with his curse bothersome and wanted to avoid it if possible. Seeing Keita unwilling to join them, Yayoi and Aiko decided to go on their own. Aiko was unsure about leaving Keita behind, but Yayoi assured her that if Keita wanted to remove the curse on his left hand, she would find a way to help him. Yayoi then told Aiko about a place they could visit to lift the curse, prompting Aiko to quickly agree and set off. Meanwhile, Keita continued his physical training, following his grandmother's advice. On the way home, he passed by a shopping area and decided to pick up some supplies for their next lesson. Yayoi, on the other hand, told Aiko about their destination, a deserted shrine filled with Buddha statues and statues symbolizing maternal love. The place was often associated with rumors of child spirits. Yayoi had been curious about the shrine, and thanks to Aiko's magazine, she remembered its location. As they traveled, Yayoi began to notice spirits appearing. When they arrived at the shrine, Yayoi instructed Aiko to stay in the car and seek help if she didn't return within an hour. Yayoi entered the shrine alone. Typically, she could only see 1/3 of the spirits in an area, meaning the remaining 2/3 were likely hiding inside the shrine. Upon entering, Yayoi discovered countless Buddha statues. She explained that the shrine honored a maternal deity who was once a demon that ate children. However, the Buddha had reformed the demon, turning it into a deity guiding lost child spirits. Over time, though, the child spirits corrupted the deity, reverting it to its demonic nature. Yayoi soon encountered the demon, which bound her legs. The child spirits used the opportunity to push a stone statue toward her. Meanwhile, Aiko noticed more than an hour had passed and drove off to find help. Yayoi managed to escape but sprained her ankle in the process. She began creating paper figures to act as decoys, but the demon and spirits started tracking her down. At the same time, Keita was still shopping for lesson supplies when Aiko found him. She urged him to help Yayoi, but Keita responded that if Yayoi got herself into trouble, she should deal with it herself. Aiko finally revealed that Yayoi was trying to lift Keita's curse, which compelled him to go with her. Meanwhile, the spirits relentlessly chased Yayoi, but wherever they thought she was hiding, they only found paper decoys she had left behind to mislead them. Yayoi eventually returned to the spirits' shrine and noticed they had all moved toward a specific direction. At that moment, Keita arrived at the shrine. However, as he approached, the spirits came outside, searching for him. Yayoi heard Keita calling her name, but he wasn't there to save her, he was being chased by the spirits. Yayoi wanted to destroy the demon statue with a hammer, but Keita noticed her injured leg. He rushed to her side, running around the shrine to draw the spirit's attention before grabbing Yayoi and helping her escape. Keita felt grateful for his daily training, which allowed him to pull off this rescue. They quickly jumped in, and Aiko drove them away as fast as she could. In the aftermath, Aiko had to pay a hefty sum to repair her car, while Keita spent a lot of money treating Yayoi's sprained ankle, especially since he didn't have insurance. As Keita carried Yayoi on his back to her home, she remarked how he reminded her of her father. Keita asked why Yayoi had knowingly taken such a dangerous risk, to which she replied that she considered him a friend and wanted to help resolve his troubles. She promised to explain later why she needed his fingernails and invited him to visit her room again. At her house, Yayoi explained the concept of surrogate dolls. If an evil spirit is sealed inside a doll along with a piece of the owner's body, the doll would absorb any misfortune intended for the owner. Yayoi revealed that she placed a strand of her hair into each of her dolls so they could share her injuries. If one doll was destroyed, the others would also sustain damage. Her request for Keita's fingernails was to create a protective doll for him. By showing Keita her collection, Yayoi demonstrated her trust in him and her view of him as a friend. Yayoi then revealed the fingernail of the demon statue from the shrine. She threw it to her dolls, telling them that the injuries they sustained today were caused by this nail. The spirits inside the dolls punished the nail, forcing it to beg Yayoi for mercy. When Keita asked why Yayoi collected evil spirits, she explained that the spirit that had taken her mother was incredibly powerful. To confront it, she needed to build an equivalent fighting force. Yayoi admitted that she was injured today just to retrieve a fragment of that demon. but if she could obtain its full form, she would be able to lift Keita's curse. She proposed that once she recovered, they would challenge the demon together again. Keita began to feel a glimmer of hope. He had resigned himself to living with the curse forever, but now he realized it might actually be lifted. He wanted to break the curse not only for himself, but also for Aiko, the person he had unintentionally cursed in the past. Yaoi asked if Keita was willing to join her in hunting demons and using them against one another. She also revealed that she was aware of Aiko's curse on her left hand. Yaoi assured him that if the spirit that cursed both of them was destroyed, the curse would vanish. Keita asked for time to think, as he wasn't sure if he wanted to continue down this spiritual path. Aiko was incredibly important to him. She had helped him reintegrate into society and had been there for him during his loneliest moments. However, if he agreed to Yaoi's plan, he would be going against Aiko's constant encouragement for him to live a normal life and stay away from the supernatural. Keita was torn. Should he continue living as an ordinary person and avoid the spiritual world, or dive deeper into it to save Aiko? The next day, Aiko decided to drive Keita to school. Yaoi joined them, as she wanted to visit their school during her break. Upon arriving, a crowd of students quickly surrounded Aiko to greet her, as she was quite famous for her recent success in the Science Olympiad. Keita and Yaoi were surprised to discover just how popular Aiko was. Many people invited Aiko to join their clubs, but she simply took a picture with them, exchanged contact information, and then returned to Keita. She no longer pursued scientific research, and her priority now was to attend school alongside Keita. While choosing classes, Keita noticed a class about urban legends. He had no interest in taking it, but Aiko seemed upset. She had always liked scary stories, but had avoided talking about them for Keita's sake. Seeing her on the verge of tears, Keita reluctantly agreed to tour the class, but made it clear he wouldn't enroll. Hearing this, Aiko's mood brightened. She admitted that although she excelled in science, there was something irresistibly fascinating about supernatural mysteries. Keita assumed the urban legends class would just discuss baseless rumors, but to his surprise, the class had a serious teacher who lectured on these topics. The teacher showed a video about a student who had been so overwhelmed by academic pressure that they self-immolated. This made Keita want to leave immediately, but it was too late. The teacher had already started the video. It depicted a lifeless-looking student, but there were also several shadowy figures in the background. Eventually, the student sat down and suddenly transformed into Keita. Flames erupted, and one of the shadows pointed directly at the camera. The teacher was shocked, claiming that the video had never shown this before. The students were unnerved and decided to leave. Meanwhile, one of Yaoi's stuffed animals mysteriously caught fire on one side, alerting her that the video was cursed. Yaoi stepped forward, sprinkled some kind of powder onto the tape, and managed to extract the malevolent spirit, transferring it into a straw doll. She explained that this spirit was much stronger than the ones she usually used as decoys for Keita. The spirit's curse worked by replacing the person in the video with whoever was watching it. Yaoi planned to make the spirit curse itself and break the curse, but after isolating it in a box and watching the video, Keita's hand unexpectedly caught fire. Yaoi asked Aiko to drive her and the spirit home so she could deal with it properly. Keita objected, fearing the spirit might set the car ablaze, but Yaoi argued that leaving it at school would be dangerous, and public transport would be even riskier. If there was any chance of harm, she wanted to minimize casualties. Yaoi assured them she could handle the curse, but Keita insisted on confronting it himself. Aiko approached Keita and explained why she always wanted to stay close to him. Unlike ordinary people, Keita could perceive spiritual phenomena, which fascinated her. More importantly, Keita had always protected her and supported her, even when she was cursed. Aiko acknowledged that Keita often blamed himself for her curse, but it had happened because she had taken part in a courage test, prompting Keita to follow her and keep her safe. Without his help, she might not have survived unscathed. Aiko told him she didn't want to be protected by him anymore. Instead, she wanted to help him. To her, Keita was someone important. Hearing this reminded Keita of similar words Aiko had said in the past, which had saved him. Feeling valued and supported, Keita was filled with hope and determination. He trusted that Yaoi and Aiko would do their best to help him. Aiko then came up with a plan. The three got into the car, but Keita had to remove all his clothes and bundle them up because the spirit was burning his belongings. As they drove, the spirit would continue to fight back by setting Keita's clothes on fire. Aiko took responsibility for driving as fast as possible so the wind could extinguish the flames. Their goal was to make it home before Keita's belongings were entirely consumed by fire. As the car sped away, the spirit intensified its attacks, setting Keita's clothes ablaze. Keita held his belongings out the window to let the wind douse the flames, but each time the fire went out, it reignited even more fiercely. Aiko had to accelerate further to strengthen the wind's force. Aiko kept increasing the car's speed as Yaoi quickly realized that the malevolent spirit was nearing its limit. After a while, the spirit finally stopped its attacks, and Keita was safe. Yaoi took the spirit back to her room to handle it, while Keita and Aiko went to the hospital for a checkup. Upon their return, Keita thanked Aiko for doing her best to help him. Aiko shared that Yaoi had told her about the origins of the spirit. It had been born from the grudge of a university student who was severely bullied. The bullying escalated without anyone intervening to protect the student, leading to a tragic end. That student had cursed their tormentors, and this malevolent spirit within the videotape was the result. Yaoi planned to train the spirit to control it. Keita hoped he would never face a similar fate and aimed to graduate peacefully alongside Aiko. For now, he resolved to cherish everything in the present. Back in her room, Aiko sat in a space filled with photos of Keita. She genuinely did not want Keita to be in danger, but exposing him to spiritual phenomena was her way of both indulging her fascination and staying close to him. The next day, Keita went to school wearing a new outfit chosen by Aiko. She had selected it to help him make a good impression and reintegrate into the community. The outfit was suitable for the season, and she even added a pair of lensless glasses to give him an intellectual look. Keita decided that today he would make new friends and took the initiative to engage with others. At school, he met the group leader, Yama, who reassured Keita that as a new student, he would soon make friends. Keita, however, was determined to succeed on his own and prove to himself that he could reintegrate into society. At home, Aiko watched Keita's progress with tears of joy. But then Yaoi unexpectedly entered the room, forcing Aiko to hide her emotions. Previously, Keita had mentioned that he had encountered a few acquaintances at the university, but they were all connected to Aiko. They only greeted him out of politeness because they knew him through her. Feeling like an outsider, Keita resolved to find a true friend independently. Though slightly saddened, Aiko supported Keita by choosing his outfit and glasses. Yaoi, however, quickly opened Aiko's computer and uncovered her secret. Aiko had been secretly monitoring Keita through the glasses she gave him. Yaoi realized Aiko had feelings for Keita, but decided to confiscate the computer to protect Keita's privacy. Just then, a sinister aura began to emanate from the computer. Alarmed, Aiko grabbed it back, as she had no idea where the aura had come from. Yaoi reassured Aiko that liking Keita wasn't wrong and promised to fully support her. Eventually, the two sat down together to observe Keita's attempts to make friends. By this time, Keita was at a restaurant, sitting with two other people. He decided to take the initiative and asked for their names and club affiliations. Though he seemed a bit awkward, at least he was brave enough to start the conversation. The young man introduced himself as Akira from the law department, while the girl, Kitoko, was from the economics department. Since they were from different fields, it seemed like starting a meaningful conversation would be difficult. Keita searched for a topic and asked why they had joined the club. Both responded that they had joined to travel. Aiko noticed that Keita seemed to struggle with short questions to keep a conversation going, which made her happy because it meant Keita couldn't do much without her. Later, Keita met Yama again, who mentioned that his group was planning another trip and asked if Keita wanted to join. Keita agreed, and Aiko saw this as an opportunity for him to make friends. However, Yaoi noticed an increasing amount of malevolent energy. After the meal ended, Keita left with Yama's group. When he got into the car, he noticed an unsettling, cold presence. Yama shared with him a story about a certain club within the university. This club consisted of dangerous individuals who disguised themselves as a wholesome group but would recruit people annually for mass suicide. The group was never officially disbanded because each year it would reappear under a new name. However, there was always one person who survived to continue this tradition, the leader. This leader was said to die the previous year and reappear the next year in a different form. The only constant was the name Yama. Keita suddenly realized that Yama, the leader of the group, was behind these mass suicides. Before he could act, he was drugged and lost consciousness. Meanwhile, Yayoi, monitoring through a camera, discovered that Yama wasn't insane, but was possessed by an evil spirit. Realizing that Keita was in danger, she and Aiko set out to rescue him. Keita woke up in an abandoned apartment and saw several people around him hanging by their necks, on the verge of death. Yama was about to kick the chair out from under Keita, but he struggled to resist. Meanwhile, Aiko and Yayoi tracked down Keita's location. The apartment was infamous for having over 100 people commit suicide there in the past. Yayoi couldn't figure out why the evil spirit named Yama orchestrated these mass suicides, thinking she'd have to investigate further. Keita continued to struggle while Aiko and Yayoi arrived at the apartment. The door was locked, so Yayoi had to reach inside to unlock it. She told Aiko to rescue Keita while she dealt with the evil spirit. Yayoi rushed in and poured alcohol into the mouth of the evil spirit. When Yama grabbed a lighter and attempted to set everyone on fire, she smashed a glass bottle over his head. Afterwards, Yayoi explained that Yama was once a criminal sentenced to probation. When he returned to society, he faced discrimination, isolation, and even bullying. Overwhelmed by resentment, he became an evil spirit, dragging others to die with him. Yayoi strongly opposed this, believing that every person's life should be their own decision. The group quickly left the scene. Keita wondered why the evil spirit didn't burn them alive, but instead used hanging. Suddenly, he felt a chill again. Yayoi explained that Yama's evil spirit hadn't been completely destroyed. She elaborated on how evil spirits function. The stronger their will to remain, the longer they stay in the world, but eventually, they run out of energy and vanish. Yama used the method of hanging to easily consume the souls of those who were still attached to the mortal world. These consumed souls would suffer an existence worse than death. Yayoi suggested leaving the remaining bodies for the police to handle, as she had already acquired a fragment of Yama's spirit. On the way back, Keita grew despondent, thinking he might not make any friends during college. Yayoi teased him, saying it would be harder for his body to avoid spiritual incidents. Keita then considered that he might focus on breaking his curse first before reintegrating into normal life. He wondered if he could truly overcome his fears, like Yayoi had. Yayoi offered to teach him, but Keita was curious about how they managed to find him despite not knowing his address. Yayoi playfully said it was a woman's sixth sense, which Keita naively believed. A few days later, Keita went camping with the two girls. Aiko and Yayoi were busy taking creepy photos to post online for likes, while Keita thought camping was a good idea. Since he had recently gone through some misfortune, Aiko and Yayoi had invited him to relax. Aiko was also happy Keita came along because she partly wanted to take Yayoi on an outing. Yayoi wasn't someone who would ask to go out on her own, and having just the two girls on a trip felt awkward, so Aiko invited Keita to join them. At one point, Yayoi asked whether it was okay for men and women to sleep together in the same tent. Aiko felt completely fine about it. Later, Keita and Yayoi went fishing together. Yayoi asked what Keita thought about giving her a proper response to something she had previously asked. However, Keita couldn't answer because he was still conflicted about a few things. He worried that the process of collecting evil spirits might curse him and put Aiko and Yayoi in danger. Keita thought Yayoi had a bright future ahead and didn't want her to be at risk. To settle things, Yayoi decided to compete with Keita in fishing. If she caught more fish than him, Keita couldn't object to her ghost hunting activities anymore because her life was her own to control. The two spent the whole afternoon fishing, but neither caught any fish, only frogs and crabs. When they returned to the camp, Aiko had already prepared a grill and skewers, waiting for them. The three enjoyed a fun meal together. Later that night, Aiko told Yayoi to go to bed first while she stayed back to chat with Keita. They eventually decided to take a walk. Aiko went down to the river to feel the cold water and asked Keita if he knew why she often visited spiritual places. She explained that she wanted to scientifically understand paranormal phenomena. She always recorded changes in her cursed hand in her notebook. Additionally, part of the reason she stayed close to Keita was her curiosity about why he attracted so many spiritual incidents. Keita asked how she'd feel if he decided to visit dangerous spiritual locations as well. He still wanted to find the evil spirits and break the curse because Aiko was the most important person to him. Aiko promised to help him no matter what, and the two made a pact. As they were about to head back, Aiko suddenly saw someone jumping off a bridge. When she called out to Keita, he said he saw nothing. Thinking she was just seeing things, Aiko dismissed it and returned to camp. That night, an evil spirit began moving from the river toward Aiko's tent and tried to approach her. Keita woke up to find Aiko walking away. He stopped her, but she claimed she wanted to go to the bridge. Keita called Yaoi for help, and she quickly realized that Aiko was possessed. This evil spirit couldn't be transferred to a stuffed animal like others Yaoi had dealt with before. Based on what Aiko said, it seemed the spirit was forcing people to jump off the bridge. Yaoi decided to let Aiko lead the way because doing nothing would leave her stuck like this forever. Keita followed Aiko to protect her, while Yaoi prepared to destroy the spirit. If an evil spirit could possess objects, Yaoi would capture it and take it home. Otherwise, she'd eradicate it. The spirit eventually appeared. Yaoi used a stuffed animal containing Keita's fingernails to try and trap it. However, the spirit quickly escaped and attempted to possess Keita instead. Keita managed to use another stuffed animal to capture the spirit while it was weakened and placed it in a salt-filled bag to restrain it. Just as they thought the ordeal was over, Aiko continued walking toward the bridge railing. Keita had to hold her back. Yaoi then realized there wasn't just one spirit but a whole group. They were using Aiko as bait to lure Keita to the bridge. Keita and Aiko fell off the bridge but were saved by ropes Yaoi had thoughtfully tied to them earlier as a precaution. Yaoi scattered salt to repel the spirits, capturing one more and giving it a choice: either vanish or enter the stuffed animal and serve her. 2 spirits were captured, and 8 others fled. Keita and Yaoi suspected there were more than just these spirits in the area, and the only way forward was to deal with them gradually. Even though the spirits were weak individually, their numbers made them difficult to handle. As Keita decided to regroup with Yaoi, he was suddenly confronted by 5 evil spirits. Aiko grabbed Keita's hand, preventing him from escaping. The spirits grabbed Keita's legs and dragged him to the ground. Aiko then poured a puddle of water infused with an evil spirit into Keita's mouth. Fortunately, Yaoi had given him a bottle of holy liquor beforehand to use in case of possession. Keita managed to spit the liquor onto a straw doll filled with rice, trapping the spirit. Yaoi had prepared multiple straw dolls to capture all the spirits. Both Yaoi and Keita successfully trapped 2 spirits each. However, the remaining spirits grew serious and summoned 6 more to join them, bringing the total to 10. Yaoi acted quickly, having the spirit she carried consume one of them, reducing their numbers back to 5. Yaoi then gave the remaining spirits a choice: submit to being sealed in the straw dolls and serve her, or face unbearable pain. The spirits submitted, but Yaoi demanded to know which one had possessed Aiko. They unanimously pointed at one of them, which Yaoi promptly dealt with. However, Aiko still wasn't freed from the curse. To make an example of what would happen to liars, Yaoi used the recently captured spirit as a warning. The true culprit behind Aiko's possession finally revealed itself and resisted, attempting to retaliate against Yaoi. However, she used the pink stuffed animal containing another spirit to show it a vision of hell. One of the straw dolls exploded, and Aiko returned to normal. When they returned to the camp, Aiko listened to the account of what had happened, shocked by her recent experience. The group then went to sleep. The next morning, Keita met Aiko by the riverside. Although she didn't remember much, she recalled the warmth of Keita's hand. She was happy that Keita had always protected her. Despite Keita humbly saying he had caused her trouble, Aiko saw him as her hero. They confessed their feelings to each other, and Keita resolved to protect Aiko if she ever got involved in strange events again. Upon their return, Keita made up his mind to join Yaoi in collecting evil spirits to break his curse. He understood that being involved with the supernatural would isolate him from society. However, he decided that first, he would lift his curse to cleanse himself fully, then rejoin society to avoid dragging others into his troubles. Aiko, observing all this, felt validated in her decision to bring Yaoi and Keita together. By doing so, she had effectively bound Keita to his curse and ensured they could continue exploring haunted places together as before. Keita, who had once tried to avoid paranormal events at all costs, had now found something he wanted to protect. That evening, Keita asked Yaoi whether cases involving a group of evil spirits, like the one they just faced, were rare. Yaoi explained that such cases were indeed uncommon. As she had mentioned before, evil spirits often sustain themselves by consuming other spirits. Living in groups made them prone to cannibalizing each other. Thus, a collective of spirits only appeared under two conditions: when the spirits were unaware of their own deaths or when they faced a formidable enemy, forcing them to band together. Yayoi speculated that the spirit that had taken her mother was an extraordinarily powerful one. From her research, she had discovered that it was the final spirit in the phenomenon known as the Hayaki Yajo Night Parade of 100 Demons. Yayoi then tied a string around a coin and handed it to Keita so he could use his spiritual abilities to determine the location they would head to next. Keita suggested that Yayoi study first, and they would leave once it got dark. By evening, Yayoi had finished studying, and Keita kept his promise to go with her. However, Aiko had already prepared everything to take them both on their journey. Once they were ready, Aiko drove them on their way. Keita didn't want Aiko to be involved in any danger, but he had promised to go with her anywhere, so he couldn't break that promise. That day, when Keita arrived at Aiko's house, he felt embarrassed about the sweet words he had said to her earlier, but Aiko insisted that the password be about their relationship. Answering friend or benefactor wouldn't be accepted. She had even recorded Keita's confession to use it as her ringtone, so he had no choice but to admit they were a couple. Despite agreeing to let Aiko come along, Keita promised to protect her with his ability to sense malevolent spirits. Yayoi wanted Keita not to be too tense because she was there, and then Keita asked how Aiko knew their destination. Aiko explained that the place they were heading to was quite famous. It had been completed 50 years ago and was often covered by television and magazines. It was the East Tunnel. People said that a female ghost in a white dress, with long hair and a bloody face, roamed the tunnel. Sometimes, she would carry a child, or at other times, crawl on all fours and chase after cars. Most of the stories were about this female ghost. Aiko wanted to go back, so she and Yayoi walked in, with Keita following. Seeing Keita seem scared, Aiko reached out and took his hand. Keita thought Aiko was quite cute, but when he turned around, he saw that she was still a little distance away from him. Shocked, he didn't know who was holding his hand. Yayoi immediately noticed the hand of a malevolent spirit and quickly used the stuffed animal to catch it. However, the spirit quickly escaped, so Yayoi suggested they go outside and drive in. The three of them then drove to the tunnel and stopped there. Aiko mentioned that the ghost could get into the car, but if they locked the doors, it would remain outside. Keita soon felt an ominous aura, and the ghost appeared in the mirror. However, as soon as he warned the two girls, the ghost vanished. The ghost then suddenly appeared right in front of the windshield, causing Yayoi to immediately tell Aiko to accelerate and crash into the ghost. Yayoi wanted to assess what kind of ghost it was. One possibility was that they would pass through it, another was that they would pass through it and the ghost would stay in the car, and the third was that they would crash into it. After observing, it seemed that this ghost could not enter the car unless invited. Yayoi then opened the door and invited the ghost in, quickly trapping it inside the stuffed animal. Once caught, they used a rope to tightly bind the ghost's neck. The three of them quickly headed back, but Keita suddenly felt like someone was sitting next to him. He assumed it was the malevolent spirit in the stuffed animal, so he relaxed his guard. No one realized that the spirit was actually right next to Keita and followed him back home. Once home, the spirit continued to follow him, even into the bathroom. By the time Keita was going to sleep, the spirit suddenly grabbed him and dragged him up to the ceiling. Meanwhile, Yayoi realized she had mistakenly caught a harmless ghost and had been deceived. She understood that the ghost was more cunning than they had thought. Yayoi decided to hurry to Keita's house to check on the situation. Keita's mother, seeing someone come knocking at midnight, was angry at first, but then happily greeted Aiko when she realized it was her. Aiko explained that she had come to return Keita's forgotten phone and decided to say hello to him while she was there. Keita's mother didn't expect her son to have such a lovely student like Yayoi. After entering Keita's room, Yayoi came face to face with the ghost, but it immediately bound her neck. In reality, before entering, Yayoi had used the coin tied with a string to determine the ghost's location, and knew it was at the door. The image she had seen earlier was a fake. Yayoi managed to escape the binding and grabbed the ghost's hair, using it to strangle the spirit and force it to release Keita. After Keita was freed, Yayoi continued to tighten the ghost's neck until it agreed to enter the stuffed animal. The next morning, Keita could barely remember what had happened and just felt very tired. However, Yaoi reassured him that he had truly been taken by a spirit. Keita felt disappointed, as he wanted to help catch malevolent spirits with Yaoi, but ended up becoming a burden to her. Yaoi, however, reminded him that they had been together for a month and the number of spirits she had captured had increased significantly. Each person had their role in the team, and as long as everyone did their part, things would be fine. Keita's role, however, was still just as bait. That evening, Keita returned home, and Yaoi decided to check his backpack. She found the malevolent spirit from the previous day had hidden in it, so she caught it again. Before closing the bag, the ghost made a gesture as if asking for Keita's help, but he could only shrug. Suddenly, Keita received a call from the intermediary informing him that he had a new student. The next day, Keita went to the meeting spot to meet the new student. He didn't know what to expect, but soon after, a girl appeared. Keita was surprised to see that his new student was a girl with a cheerful personality and a bit of a Western flair. She tripped as she ran up to him. They then went to a restaurant, and the new student asked Keita if he thought she was cute. Keita noticed that she was wearing star-shaped contact lenses, so he gave a polite compliment. He had never interacted with this type of girl before, so he wasn't sure how to handle the situation. Keita asked why she had come to a restaurant instead of studying at home, and the girl explained that she couldn't focus at home and had come here for a change of scenery, plus to enjoy some good food. Keita introduced himself, and the girl also introduced herself as Mio. Afterward, Mio took a liking to Keita's food, and he came up with an idea. He decided to play a game with Mio. For each question she answered correctly from her homework, he would give her a piece of food. If she answered wrong, he would eat the food instead. If Mio managed to eat more than him, he would treat her to any dish she wanted. Keita realized that Mio wasn't uninterested in studying, but rather, she just hadn't found a way to engage with it. However, Mio answered every question incorrectly, so Keita ate all the food. Mio wasn't satisfied and ordered more food. Suddenly, the staff rushed over and spilled a cup of water on Mio, causing her to cry, lamenting how unlucky she was. Keita then asked her if she felt a heavy burden on her shoulders. Mio was puzzled, asking how Keita knew, and he pointed to the footprints in the spilled water. Mio was surprised that Keita could also sense spirits, but he explained that he could only feel their presence, not fully see them. Mio then explained that she had always been weak as a child and had frequently been haunted by ghosts, bringing misfortune to herself and those around her. However, she had never been possessed. She used to have an older brother, but one day, while accompanying her, a beam from a nearby construction site fell on him, killing him. She had always blamed herself for his death, believing she was the cause. Mio had always thought her brother's spirit had followed her to protect her. Although she was scared of ghosts, she still wanted to live well so that her brother could rest in peace. She hired a tutor to improve her studies for her brother's sake, so he would be at ease. Keita then took Mio to Yaoi for help. Mio didn't believe Yaoi could solve her problem, but Yaoi quickly noticed two spirits following Mio. She then used a stuffed animal to capture the malevolent spirits. Once everything was settled, Mio was able to leave, thanking Yaoi for solving her troubles. Keita then took Mio home, but suddenly that night, as Keita was sleeping, the malevolent spirit entered his dreams to inform him that he had to save Mio because the dangerous spirit was her brother. Yaoi then informed Keita that the effigy of Mio was being strangled, so Keita rushed to pick her up, and they both headed to Mio's house. Mio lived alone in an apartment, which made Keita wonder why her parents allowed their 16-year-old daughter to live alone. Yaoi asked about the location of Mio's room and climbed up alone to check on the effigy. As long as the effigy was still intact, it meant that Mio was still alive. At that moment, Mio discovered that her brother was trying to strangle her and cried, asking why. Yaoi then broke down the door to stop her brother's spirit. However, the spirit suddenly stopped and had accumulated enough time to pass on peacefully. Keita also entered the room, and Mio believed that her brother must have hated her for causing his death, which was why he wanted to take her with him. However, both Keita and Yaoi didn't sense any hatred from her brother's spirit, so they thought there had to be another reason behind it. Mio then said that she would die in 4 years because a deity had chosen her, and when she turned 20, that deity would take her away. This was a family tradition. Keita then noticed a picture on her bedside table and realized that the spirit who had appeared in his dream was in the picture as well. Mio couldn't see the ghost in the picture, and Yaoi also needed to focus before she could see it. Yaoi recognized that the white ghost was very powerful. The reason it had been captured was that the star in Mio's eyes had disappeared. But suddenly, the star reappeared, and Yaoi realized that the spirit had escaped from her room full of malevolent entities. It was indeed powerful enough to be a deity, and Mio was the bride of a deity. At that moment, the lights suddenly went out, and the spirits began to enter the room. Yaoi explained that the energy of the deity was radiating from Mio's eyes, which attracted ghosts and evil spirits toward her. Keita asked Mio how long she had been living there, and she replied that she had only moved in 2 months ago. The sight of her brother had also been the first time she had seen a ghost, although she occasionally experienced sleep paralysis, and her shoulders always felt heavy. Keita was surprised that she had managed to live in a place where spirits freely came and went and still remained unharmed. Yaoi then called Aiko, who arrived quickly after hearing Keita was in trouble. Keita asked how Aiko knew the exact address, and Yaoi had to explain on her behalf. Keita had to introduce Mio to his girlfriend, which made Mio seem somewhat skeptical. Yaoi then discreetly told Aiko about Mio's situation and asked her to let Mio stay at her house for a while. Aiko offered Mio some sweets to invite her to come along, but Yaoi warned that eating sweets at night was dangerous. Keita then went outside to use the bathroom, and Yaoi told him to come back soon before the dangerous entities appeared. However, just as she finished speaking, Keita immediately encountered the very danger Yaoi had mentioned. Keita pretended not to see it and walked on, hoping it wouldn't attack him, but the evil spirit grinned at him. When Keita reached the bathroom, he realized that the evil spirit had followed him there. He acted as if he wasn't afraid, hoping the spirit wouldn't target him. After washing his hands, Keita had no idea what kind of evil spirit he was facing, but he immediately noticed the spirit behind him, playing with his brain. Had it not been for Yaoi's effigy, Keita would have been in serious danger. Keita then hurriedly tried to leave, running back to the room and pretending everything was fine, urging everyone to leave quickly. The group reluctantly followed Keita's lead and left, but Yaoi realized that Keita's panicked behavior was likely due to the spirit following him. It wasn't too strong, but it had been trying to approach Keita to disrupt his mind. When the group reached the stairwell, they found it under maintenance, so they had no choice but to take the elevator. However, the elevator doors wouldn't close, which started to worry the group. Just as they were getting anxious, the doors finally closed, but the evil spirit's face appeared on the screen. Both Aiko and Mio saw it. As the elevator moved to each floor, the spirit's face appeared on each level. When they reached the first floor, the spirit's face disappeared, and Keita decided to go outside to see if the spirit was still lurking around. He quickly led the group to run, but suddenly, the spirit appeared in the elevator and extended its arm to grab Mio. However, the deity's mark on Mio's face protected her, and the spirit grabbed Keita's leg, pulling him into the elevator. Mio and Aiko tried to hold Keita back, but he had to push them away, knowing it was pointless. At that moment, Yaoi rushed into the elevator to help Keita, and the two of them were trapped inside. Mio thought she had once again caused someone's death. In the past, her father had believed that she was the cause of misfortune in the family and asked her to leave. Her brother had been able to stay with her, but it was because he stayed that he paid the price with his life. Now, it was Keita, and she felt like the evil spirit was targeting her. Yet Keita was the one suffering the consequences. But Aiko hugged Mio and reassured her that with Yaoi with Keita, everything would be fine. Keita and Yaoi were then taken down to the basement, a place that clearly didn't exist. They had to face the evil spirit, which took out 4 brains, and 4 souls appeared behind Keita. He suddenly saw the memories of a ghost and learned that the evil spirit had taken their brains to turn them into its servants. The souls were forced to haunt the elevator and bring more victims to the spirit. Keita told Yaoi what he had learned and explained that they needed to deal with the evil spirit to free the souls. Yaoi had a plan. She handed Keita her doll, saying the spirit inside it would protect him from the 4 souls. The condition for their victory was to lure the evil spirit into the elevator and separate it from its domain, the basement. Yaoi then rushed forward, leaving Keita confused as she told him to stay inside. She used a rope to approach the evil spirit, knowing it would underestimate her because it had been targeting Keita. The way to deal with hunters like it was to exploit its carelessness. Yaoi quickly looped the rope around its legs, and Keita helped pull it. the spirit was restrained and dragged toward the elevator. Yaoi believed the spirit had touched the effigy that protected Keita, making it very angry. As the spirit reached for the brains, Yaoi used the rope made from the hair of a female ghost to strike it. The spirit was pulled into the elevator and was soon devoured by the spirit inside the doll. Yaoi realized that they could now go back to the surface, but she wanted to return to Mio's room to take care of the remaining matters. She also planned to perform a cleansing ritual for the 4 girls to prevent them from lingering too long and turning into evil spirits. As they passed by the 2 girls, Yaoi sent a message to Aiko to let her know that both of them were still safe. Keita was terrified by Yaoi's method of cleansing. She explained that in the past, people used to hang the bodies of dead crows to scare away other crows, and similarly, cleansing spirits meant helping them find satisfaction. She had left the evil spirit for the 4 souls to deal with. Once they had tortured the spirit enough, they would find their own satisfaction and transcend. Although she wasn't sure how long it would take, leaving the 4 souls torturing the evil spirit in Mio's room would make other spirits afraid to enter there. Yaoi then decided to go back to her room to grab a few tools. When she met Aiko and Mio again, Mio was relieved that they were both still safe. However, she didn't want to stay with Keita and Yaoi anymore, fearing that she would bring misfortune to them. Yaoi, however, reassured her that she had locked the evil spirit in Mio's room to prevent any other spirits or evil beings from interfering with her. If Mio continued to drag misfortune, Yaoi would lock it all away for her. On the way back, Mio decided that from now on, she would find out the reason why her brother had tried to kill her. Keita was happy that Mio had finally decided to stand up for herself. When they returned to Yaoi's room, the group was shocked to find that a large number of Yaoi's stuffed animals had been destroyed, apparently by the god. Yaoi swore that she would make that god pay for it. The god immediately left Mio and appeared to ask Yaoi how she planned to capture him. Yaoi replied that the evil spirits he had just destroyed were mere children, and the more mature ones had yet to join the battle. Above all, she was confident that she could handle him alone. Based on his status as a god, he must have been over 500 years old, and a 500-year-old god wanting to marry a 20-year-old girl was essentially a lolicon. She then pointed out that the remaining dolls were shaking, not from fear but from anger toward him. Therefore, she planned to prepare a slave position for someone like him. The god, intrigued, said he would keep a spot for Yaoi in his collection. He then disappeared and returned inside Mio, warning the group to prepare well because he would annihilate all of them and humiliate them to their very souls. No matter how they struggled, Mio's curse would remain. Yaoi then pulled the group outside, locked the door, and told Keita that her evil spirit faction had been thrown into disarray. They would now fight each other to determine the strongest. Keita knew that the room was now a hell, but after a while, the sound stopped. Yaoi opened the door, and only one stuffed bear remained after the purging. However, it now had plans to rebel. It called Keita, and Yaoi warned him not to answer the call, or he would become a cripple. Aiko also received a call, but the bear trapped the group. Aiko hadn't answered yet, so Yaoi tried to lock the bear up. She used everything she could to trap it, and luckily, Keita managed to open the door just in time to stop Aiko from answering. Yaoi said that this evil spirit could now be considered a graduate-level evil spirit, the strongest one. It couldn't be suppressed. Its power could extend up to 5 houses, so Yaoi would need to carry it around and keep an eye on it. Now Keita could go home, and they would meet again tomorrow. Keita hadn't expected all these events to unfold, and Yaoi had clearly sacrificed a lot to make such significant progress. The individuals sacrificed in the process would help create a new path. The next morning, the group returned to Mio's room to hang some seals to lead evil spirits directly to the place where the 4 souls were torturing the evil spirit. This would show other spirits that they shouldn't dare approach Mio's room. Afterward, the group went back to Yaoi's room to clean up the evil spirits that had been destroyed. While cleaning, Mio realized that today was the anniversary of her brother's death, so she had to go back home to her parents for the day. After a few hours of cleaning, Keita and Yaoi were quite exhausted. Yaoi apologized for dragging both Keita and Aiko into this situation. They were lucky to be alive so far because the god was a competitive being. Now, they needed to quickly find a way to deal with him, or the next time they encountered him, they might lose their lives. Yaoi explained that her usual practice was to collect evil spirits to use as test subjects to protect herself from spiritual attacks. Over time, she had built up an army to gradually defeat the evil spirit that had kidnapped her mother. However, confronting a god had caused her army to lose many members, so now they needed to hunt stronger evil spirits to rebuild their army and eventually face the god. Once they captured the god, Yaoi was confident she could confront the evil spirit that had taken her mother, and Mio would be freed from her fatal fate. Keita asked how many they would need to face the god, and Yaoi explained that she had once defeated a god with just 3 graduated evil spirits. If they wanted to capture the god, they would likely need 6. Currently, she already had 3 graduated spirits, plus the one created yesterday, bringing the total to 4. There were also extremely powerful spiritual sites across the country. If they could place an evil spirit in charge of one of these sites to destroy the evil spirit controlling another, a superior evil spirit would be created, one stronger than the graduated evil spirits. So, from now on, they would target dangerous sites across the country. Yaoi had already marked the most dangerous spiritual locations on the map. For now, they would conquer the sites in Tokyo first, and once they had enough combat strength, she would conquer the entire country. She believed that by defeating and claiming at least 20 sites, she would create the strongest army of evil spirits. Whether facing a god or the evil spirit that had kidnapped her mother, it wouldn't matter. Keita realized that he would have to endure even more, but since they had already made a plan, the lesson could now begin. Yaoi immediately felt discouraged, and Aiko, needing to write a report, left ahead. In the afternoon, after finishing her lesson, Yaoi wanted to go for a walk with Keita. He rode a bike, taking her with him, and Yaoi shared that she had always fought alone until Keita appeared. She was very happy to have someone to accompany her. To her, Keita wasn't just bait for evil spirits, but a trusted ally. Keita decided to thank Yaoi and let her choose a place they could go together. Yaoi pointed out a location, and Keita followed her directions, only to find out by evening that they were heading to a newly created dangerous spiritual site. This site hadn't been marked yet, but its danger level was S. Yaoi also wanted to test the strength of her newly graduated evil spirit. Keita knew he had no choice but to follow since he had already promised Yaoi. Yaoi warned Keita in advance that S-level sites had one common feature. Once entered, there was no way out unless they completely destroyed the evil spirit that controlled the place. As they entered, Yaoi informed Keita that although the evil spirit here was strong, it was quite benign since no one had died here. It seemed the evil spirit only scared people away to prevent them from returning. Keita and Yaoi were about to turn back when they suddenly encountered an old woman. Although Yaoi knew she was an evil spirit, she simply said they were visiting, so the old woman guided them further. Yaoi pointed out strange signs in the area, most notably the feeling of being followed, the sight of ghostly figures of dead soldiers, and the spirits of several women trailing behind. Finally, the old woman revealed that the place they were in was an ancient castle. In the past, the soldiers had fought to leave, which led to the castle being attacked by enemies. The castle's entire population was wiped out, and most of the women were beheaded by the invaders to prevent the people from resisting. The surviving women later chose to commit suicide by jumping into a waterfall. Their blood stained the water for 3 days. Yaoi then handed Keita a stuffed animal that had not yet been turned into an evil spirit for protection, while she herself kept a graduated evil spirit and the finger of the evil spirit that controlled the child's spirits from before. But suddenly, Keita felt someone behind him and turned to check. Yaoi saw nothing and told Keita to keep going. However, Keita then noticed the footsteps of the old woman coming from behind. At the same time, Yaoi was unexpectedly grabbed by Keita, who saw that the old woman was actually the evil spirit. Keita realized he was now separated from Yaoi. Meanwhile, Aiko, who was checking on Keita, noticed that his signal had suddenly disappeared. Keita, realizing the danger, decided to run and search for Yaoi, but at that moment, Yaoi sensed something strange as well. The evil spirit quickly knocked Yaoi unconscious and seemed to be interested in the finger of the evil spirit she was holding. Keita ran desperately, trying to sense the location of the graduated evil spirit to find Yaoi, but he was soon surrounded by other evil spirits, which locked his body in place. He then witnessed the tragic sight of the women from the past committing suicide by jumping into the waterfall. In that moment, Keita saw himself standing on the edge of the waterfall, preparing to do the same. The spirits of the women urged him to remember this moment. Keita woke up in the middle of a forest and discovered a stab wound on his neck. The substitute doll he had been using was destroyed, and he realized he had been cursed. In a panic, Keita ran to find Yaoi, but when he reached her, he discovered she had already passed away. He fell down a hill and found Yaoi's body hanging. In his panic, he realized he was standing in front of a waterfall. The evil spirit controlling the waterfall told him he needed to remember this moment. It had engraved a curse on him that would stay with him until his death. Keita realized how naive he had been to fall into this cursed situation, while Yaoi had already lost her life. However, before that, Yaoi had sensed something unusual and, seizing the moment when the evil spirit wasn't paying attention, she used a rope to attack it. After subduing the evil spirit pretending to be the old woman, Yaoi realized Keita was in danger and rushed to save him. Keita, meanwhile, discovered that Yaoi's body was a fake. It suddenly embraced him and seemed to be pulling him into the sky. Keita noticed many skeletons in modern clothing in the sky, realizing these were the people who had recklessly ventured into the site before. This explained why there were no recorded deaths. No one ever came back to tell the tale. The good news was that Keita realized Yaoi was still alive, but he wasn't sure if he would survive until she arrived. Just as he thought that, Yaoi charged in and punched the head of the evil spirit, shattering it. Keita was relieved to see Yaoi was still safe. However, the real problem now was the evil spirit's head, which was still casting a curse on him. This curse would gradually sever his head, and the area around them had been enclosed by a barrier to prevent their escape. The evil spirit would drain their souls once the head was fully severed, gaining more power. As Keita suspected, the reason no one had talked about dying here was because no one ever returned to tell the tale. Yaoi noticed the finger of the evil spirit she was holding was trembling with fear, confirming Keita's theory. She believed the situation could be dealt with simply. Yaoi then released her own graduated evil spirit, and the one within the black bear's stuffed animal turned out to be a dark master. The master began chanting a spell, and Yaoi gave Keita some earphones to prevent him from hearing the chant, as the chant would cause anyone who heard it to die. The dark master would then absorb the souls of those he killed. The barrier created by the evil spirit was soon consumed by the Dark Master's power, and the barrier vanished. The evil spirit then decapitated the Dark Master, but the head continued chanting, so the evil spirit had to cut off the Master's mouth. However, the creatures who had heard the chant continued to repeat it, so the evil spirit cut off their necks as well. Despite this, even the souls captured by the Dark Master continued chanting, and this caused the massive barrier and the evil spirit's body to collapse. The spirits then rushed to capture the evil spirit, forcing it to reveal its full form and flee. Yaoi realized it was trying to kill all the creatures capable of chanting in order to absorb the Dark Master, so she had no choice but to pursue it. Since it was too dark for Yaoi to follow the trail, Keita had to rely on his instincts to help her chase after the spirit. The two eventually found the evil spirit, but since the chanting had stopped, it prepared to attack them. However, the spirit also started reciting a chant of its own. Yaoi questioned whether it wanted to continue existing or disappear entirely. With that, Yaoi quickly subdued it. At that moment, Keita suddenly began chanting aloud. Yaoi hurriedly clamped his mouth shut and pressed on his throat to silence him. She warned that she would use her finger to attack his brain, which would force the stuffed animal containing the spirit of the monk to absorb the impact and stop chanting momentarily. Yaoi told Keita to quickly seal the monk's spirit in her place, as the monk would kill any human who heard his chant within 20 seconds. Those 20 seconds were all Keita needed to bind the spirit. Keita began wrapping a rope around the head of the stuffed animal. However, after a moment, it resumed chanting, so he shoved it into a plastic bag, secured it with chains, and locked it with a padlock. The monk's spirit was sealed once more, sparing Keita. Yaoi then noticed that the evil spirit was tethered to something with a mysterious string. She followed it with Keita, leading them to a waterfall. There, Yaoi discovered a box containing a cursed hand. She severed the connection between the hand and the evil spirit, which caused the spirit to abruptly change its demeanor, reverting to a benevolent soul. Yaoi realized that this spirit was originally kind-hearted, but had been corrupted by the cursed object. Keita feared he had dragged many good spirits to hell, but Yaoi reassured him that this was the only benevolent soul he had encountered so far. The other spirits Keita had seen were merely fragments of this one's consciousness, dispersed to recreate the memories of the area. The spirit's goal had been to ensure that the good people who once lived there would not be forgotten. The monk's actions in destroying the fragments only weakened the spirit, and its current diminished state was a punishment for the mistakes it had unintentionally made. Yaoi then released the wandering ghost trapped in a paper talisman. It turned out to be a vagrant spirit accidentally caught up in the events. The real culprit was someone who had deliberately placed the cursed hand there to drive the spirit mad. Yaoi decided to bury the cursed hand to prevent further incidents. Yaoi also had Keita bury the object that housed the spirit, allowing it to recover. She mentioned she would retrieve it later if needed. Keita thanked Yaoi for saving him, but Yaoi replied that she only survived thanks to his help. She asked if Keita wanted to give up ghost hunting, but Keita realized how much he valued Yaoi. Since she wouldn't quit, he decided to face his fears and continue helping her. As they left, the spirit came to bid them farewell, giving them a piece of cloth they could use to summon it for assistance in the future. When they returned home, Aiko was upset they didn't take her along but still wanted to hear what had happened. Yaoi recounted the events and invited Aiko to join them at their next destination. Now that she had gained control over the Dark Monk's power, the next location was the same old bunker, which was classified as an S-rank danger zone. Yaoi asked Aiko if she knew of a place to hide the cursed hand. Keita was shocked that Yaoi had brought it back. Since no one wanted the responsibility, Yaoi decided she would handle it herself. Aiko then hugged Keita's neck, teasing that he must enjoy exploring creepy paranormal sites. She began subtly manipulating him into thinking he truly enjoyed venturing to haunted places. Keita had once thought Aiko wasn't the type of person to enjoy such things, but now he was sure Aiko wanted to drag him along to scary places with her. Meanwhile, the one who had placed the cursed hand at the waterfall scolded the vagrant spirit for allowing their plan to fail. This individual was revealed to be aided by a cursed monk who had numerous disciples spread across the country. The mastermind disposed of the vagrant spirit and decided to accelerate their plans. At this time, the evil spirit Yaoi was hunting, known as Kubu, attacked the temple of another spirit one associated with many ghostly children, called Kishamajin. The two spirits clashed briefly before Kubu suddenly departed. It seemed they had gauged each other's strength and would likely meet again in the future. Meanwhile, Aiko prepared her belongings to accompany Yaoi and Keita. The group quickly set off for the second S-rank danger zone. Keita noticed that the substitute doll that had saved him previously had been retrieved by Yaoi. She told him that next time, he must retrieve the remains himself, otherwise there would be consequences. Yaoi then asked Aiko to stop by another place first because she wanted to retrieve another graduated spirit to bring along, just in case the Dark Monk caused trouble or lacked the strength to manage the situation. She revealed that she had hidden this spirit near a river in a remote area, an ideal place to nurture it. Yaoi had deliberately placed the spirit there so it could consume other evil spirits and continue to grow stronger. When Keita asked about the nature of this graduated spirit, Yaoi explained that it wasn't an evil spirit, but was still very dangerous. It was the soul of a high-ranking military commander who had fought in a war. He was plagued by the vengeful spirits of enemy soldiers, preventing him from passing on. Yaoi had formed a contract with him, borrowing his strength in exchange for helping him achieve peace. Their relationship was not hostile, but the problem lay in transporting the commander without freeing the vengeful spirits. If they were released, they would kill anything in their path without hesitation. Yaoi instructed Aiko to purchase some supplies, prioritizing water, as the vengeful spirits were perpetually thirsty. The group then entered a field and began hearing strange noises. They encountered a mannequin with numerous wounds on its body. Shortly after, footprints appeared, and a television turned on, showing the shadow of an evil spirit. The vengeful spirits of the fallen soldiers began to manifest. One spirit approached Keita and possessed him, forcing him to witness the brutal scenes of their war-torn past. These soldiers not only fought enemies but also battled hunger and thirst, eventually becoming famished ghosts in death. Keita was compelled to drink all the water they had, only to turn aggressive afterward. The substitute doll was immediately torn apart, so Yaoi poured out water to lure the spirits away. However, the two were quickly surrounded. Yaoi instructed Aiko to retrieve the graduated spirit so she could reinforce its seals. Aiko rushed to the mannequin, removed its covering, and grabbed the stuffed animal that housed the spirit. Chased by the vengeful soldiers, Aiko threw the stuffed animal toward Yaoi. Keita used a net made from the hair of the evil spirit from the previous bunker to contain the stuffed animal, sealing the vengeful spirits once more. Relieved, Keita thought the ordeal was over, but Yaoi reminded him that this was just the beginning. They still had to head to the next S-rank location. While stopping to buy drinks, Yaoi mended the substitute stuffed animal for future use. Meanwhile, Aiko discovered that she had started sensing paranormal phenomena more clearly and was thrilled at the prospect of engaging with them further. After regrouping, the team continued their journey. Keita sighed, mentally bracing himself for what lay ahead. The group soon arrived at the next S-rank location, a long abandoned tunnel rumored to be haunted by a ghost wearing a white kimono. Since vehicles couldn't go further in, Yaoi checked the map. There were 3 tunnels. One was a newly operational route, while the other 2 old tunnels were said to be haunted. Keita quickly sensed a dark aura emanating from one of the old tunnels. Aiko decided to search online for more information, but her phone slipped out of her hand. When Keita bent down to pick it up, he was startled to see the stuffed bear of the long-haired spirit from before. Yaoi discovered that the evil spirit had found a new hiding place, likely having escaped the previous purge by the Dark Monk. Taking advantage of its presence, she decided to make it Aiko's substitute spirit, while the newly repaired doll was given to Keita. Along with it, she included a rescue cloth imbued with the power of the waterfall spirit, as Keita was the most likely to be targeted. This would serve as his safeguard. The group then began their journey into the tunnel, with Keita remembering the warning. Once inside, they could not turn back. Aiko reviewed the potential paranormal phenomena they might encounter before entering. 1. A ghostly woman wearing a white kimono. 2. A ghost that would chase them if they looked back. 3. The bloody stain of an old woman who had been hit by a car, visible on the walls. 4. Eerie sounds echoing from deeper within. 5. Traffic mirrors reflecting ill omens, often leading to accidents. 6. Numerous other supernatural occurrences. As Aiko noticed a traffic mirror at the entrance, she wondered if its position was fixed. She attempted to check online for reference images, but her screen unexpectedly glitched. At that moment, Yaoi instructed both Keita and Aiko to enter the tunnel. However, Aiko soon realized she was still standing at the entrance while Yaoi and Keita had vanished. Suddenly, Aiko encountered a girl named Anna, who introduced herself as a YouTuber exploring haunted locations. Anna invited Aiko to join her, and as they ventured deeper, they chatted about a rumor involving an axe-wielding murderer who would relentlessly chase anyone he encountered. Before they realized it, the two reached what seemed to be the tunnel's exit. Yet upon stepping out, they found themselves back inside the tunnel. Over and over, they attempted to leave, only to be drawn back in. Aiko then asked Anna to observe her as she tried to walk out. While Anna saw Aiko exiting the tunnel, from Aiko's perspective, the path ahead led her straight back inside. Both girls began to panic and noticed 2 kidney-like objects lying on the ground. They assumed that going back into the tunnel might break the cycle, but after running toward the exit, they were pulled back inside yet again, this time with a liver also lying on the ground. To calm their nerves, Anna continued sharing the story of the murderer. She explained that before dismembering his victims, he would do something even more terrifying. Meanwhile, Yaoi and Keita had reached halfway through the tunnel when Yaoi revealed that the figure behind them wasn't Aiko. She explained that if she had mentioned this earlier, the spirit might have attacked out of surprise, and Keita, being unaware, could have interfered, giving the spirit an opportunity to escape. Back with Aiko, Anna finished her story. Without delving into the gruesome details, Anna described how the murderer would amputate his victims' limbs and subject them to such horrifying torture that they wished for death to escape the suffering. Anna herself was one such victim. She revealed that she had a friend who tried to save her, but ended up suffering the same fate after encountering the murderer. Terrified, Aiko ran off and seemingly escaped the tunnel. However, she found herself at a dead end. From the darkness, the murderer emerged with his axe, having already killed Anna. He began chasing Aiko, who desperately tried to escape, only to find herself back where she started. This time, the murderer left her no place to run. At that moment, Yaoi noticed that the leg of the substitute doll was severed, realizing that Aiko was in danger. The chilling sensation Keita felt earlier was coming from a different location, likely the true haunted tunnel where Aiko was trapped. Suddenly, the ghost that had been following Keita and Yaoi attacked them, prompting Yaoi to stab it in the head. She decided to capture the ghost and use it to guide them to Aiko's location. Meanwhile, the long-haired spirit from the stuffed bear Aiko carried became enraged after the axe-wielding spirit severed its leg. It escaped from the bear and confronted the murderer. Despite trapping the axe-wielding spirit in its hair, the murderer managed to break free and decapitate the long-haired spirit. Aiko, overwhelmed, began to be dragged away by the vengeful spirits of the murderer's previous victims. Keita and Yaoi arrived just in time, but the axe-wielding evil spirit unexpectedly signaled them with a hand gesture. If they wanted to save Aiko, they would have to enter its domain. Aiko knew that fighting inside would ensure their defeat because her graduation spirit would cause the confined space to collapse. The only viable strategy was to lure the axe-wielding spirit outside. Once they agreed on their plan, the two confidently stepped inside the tunnel. As they entered, Keita noticed a strange sign in the substitute doll's eye, realizing that the axe-wielding spirit was trying to crush his eye. He ran ahead and encountered a ghost with crushed eyes. The axe-wielding spirit dragged this ghost forward, signaling to Keita and Yaoi that if they were caught, they would meet the same fate. Yaoi knew the spirit wouldn't let them escape. It only wanted to toy with them and watch them struggle before failing. Keita and Yaoi ran a considerable distance before finding Aiko tied up and gagged. Keita suddenly heard someone calling his name and realized the voices were coming from the faces of the murderer's previous victims embedded in the wall. The axe-wielding spirit immediately lunged forward, delivering a blow that split the substitute doll in two. Yaoi freed Aiko and instructed Keita to carry her and run. The axe-wielding spirit attacked all three from behind, but they managed to dodge and flee. As they ran, hands emerged from the ground, grabbing at Keita's legs. He struggled to pull free, but the axe-wielding spirit closed in to deliver a deadly strike. Yaoi shoved Keita aside to save him. As they neared the exit, the blind ghost from earlier grabbed Keita. Aiko scattered salt, forcing the ghost to release him. While Keita and Aiko escaped, Yaoi was captured. Aiko quickly threw the substitute doll to Yaoi, and the spirit inside the doll bit into the axe-wielding spirit's arm, allowing Yaoi to break free. Furious, the axe-wielding spirit devoured the unfortunate blind ghost to regain its strength. Angrier than ever after losing his prey for the first time, the axe-wielding spirit turned his rage toward them. Yaoi, now prepared, decided to summon her second graduation spirit instead of relying on her master spirit, which specialized in gradual elimination and wasn't suited for direct confrontation. She released the command spirit, which she had encountered a year ago in a cemetery. This spirit, haunted by the soldiers that clung to him and devoured innocent souls nearby, suffered immense guilt for endangering others. He had long wished for death, and Yaoi subdued him, giving him the name Sergeant Demon. Upon being summoned, Sergeant Demon immediately blocked the axe-wielding spirit's attacks and tore off its mask. He then activated his curse, summoning the undead soldiers. His curse inflicted unending thirst and weakness upon all enemies within its range, condemning them to a state where death was impossible. Yaoi instructed Aiko to video call her, leaving her phone behind while the group escaped. She explained that with each weapon Sergeant Demon drew, the curse would grow stronger and expand its area of effect. If it reached its final stage, even they would be affected, so they needed to leave quickly. The only way to stop the curse was to kill Sergeant Demon, an almost impossible feat for an immortal being. The axe-wielding spirit, desperate, gathered his strength and charged at Sergeant Demon, delivering a devastating blow. However, Sergeant Demon regenerated swiftly. Acknowledging that he could only be killed if he grew weaker, he amplified his curse, further weakening himself and expanding its reach. The axe-wielding spirit, despite being significantly weakened, devoured the undead soldiers to regain his power. He charged with blinding speed, hacking Sergeant Demon into pieces and devouring him. Yet, to his horror, Sergeant Demon re-emerged from within his bloated stomach. Deciding it wasn't enough, Sergeant Demon enhanced his curse again, further weakening himself. The curse extended to Keita's location, forcing him to throw Aiko aside to protect her. He shielded her but was caught in the curse's fringes, weakening his body. Meanwhile, the axe-wielding spirit, now severely debilitated, began to be consumed by the undead soldiers. Sergeant Demon planted a bomb in the spirit's mouth, detonating it. Though the explosion annihilated the axe-wielding spirit, Sergeant Demon survived. Exhausted, he retreated into the stuffed bear. Yaoi returned to ask the axe-wielding evil spirit if it still wanted to live. The spirit asked if traveling with her would allow it to kill freely. Yaoi was willing to compromise, so the spirit entered her domain only to realize it had been deceived. Yaoi forced it to endure the pain it had inflicted on its victims and then drove a nail into its head, sealing its bloodlust permanently. Afterward, Yaoi ventured into the axe-wielding spirit's lair. 10 minutes later, she emerged with all the paper dolls that had sealed every ghost in the lair. She explained that she would split them into 2 groups, one to be taken to a temple for release, and the other to be brought back to her room. The benevolent ghosts would be sent to the temple for peaceful passage, while the malevolent ones would be handled personally. Due to Sergeant Demon's curse extending into the lair, Yaoi only needed to ask the spirits if they would devour other souls to survive. Those who refused or didn't understand were classified as benevolent, while those willing to harm others or drag others into death with them were deemed malevolent. On their way back, Aiko felt like she was a burden to the other 2 and assumed her role was limited to driving. However, as the car started on its own before Aiko even pressed the ignition, she realized Anna had latched onto her, trying to drag her into death. Yaoi quickly scattered salt and captured Anna into a paper doll to take back to her room. Feeling some sympathy for Anna, Aiko asked to handle her instead, and Yaoi agreed. Thus, another S-rank location was conquered. 50 benevolent spirits were taken to a temple along the way for the monks to perform rites, while 30 malevolent spirits were brought back. Yaoi also brought back the corpse of the long-haired evil spirit. However, they were still unsure how to handle the cursed arm. Aiko had an idea but decided to share it the next day. Yaoi, having informed Keita about his weakened condition, insisted he return home to rest and recover. Meanwhile, Aiko, back home, lay on the couch, reflecting on her first real experience of life-threatening danger. Unlike her usual carefree attitude, she now realized the terrifying reality Keita and Yaoi faced. She wondered if she would dare to join them again. Sensing Aiko's unease, Yaoi invited her on a walk. The 2 went to the subway station, where Yaoi noticed a few ghosts. During the train ride, Yaoi could tell Aiko was still struggling to adapt to the fear. From the moment Aiko had met Yaoi, she had assumed Yaoi simply enjoyed creepy things, leading her to tag along. She had also joined to help Keita overcome the fears haunting him and hoped to share some of that burden. But now, she understood just how much of a liability she had been. Meanwhile, Keita reflected on everything that had happened, how he was cursed, how Aiko got dragged into his ordeal, and how he had to isolate himself for 2 years before reintegrating into society, going to university, and finding a part-time job where he met Yaoi. After encountering numerous dangerous spirits, he felt exhausted but knew there was no turning back. Still worried about Aiko, Keita sent her a message to check on her. Encouraged by Keita's concern, Aiko decided to confront her fears. She led Yaoi to a graveyard rumored to house a powerful, vengeful spirit. Yaoi was surprised by Aiko's choice. The graveyard was said to be the resting place of a king who had once unified the nation, but was betrayed and beheaded. His severed head was paraded around and mocked, causing it to accumulate intense resentment and transform into an evil spirit. Later, during road construction, attempts to demolish the graveyard led to frequent accidents, leading to rumors of a haunting. People claimed those affected would suffer excruciating headaches. Aiko revealed that she and Keita had passed this place years ago, and Keita had shown symptoms of a headache at the time. She explained that this location had inspired her initial interest in exploring paranormal phenomena, so she wanted to revisit it to confront her beginnings. The 2 eventually returned, and Aiko documented a significant discovery. The durability of the substitute dolls depended on the strength of the spirit within them. However, the dolls' bodies could be repaired to help the spirits recover their power. Aiko came up with the idea of creating an indestructible container of slime. She shaped the slime into a human form and placed Anna inside it to observe the results over time. Meanwhile, Mio returned to the city, explaining that her delay was due to a string of misfortunes. The god haunting Mio unexpectedly sensed the shrine of a minor deity in the area. Initially planning to destroy it, the god suddenly noticed the presence of Kubu and found this new discovery far more intriguing. As for Aiko, she shared with Yaoi her intention to buy a house to store items Yaoi wanted to keep, such as the cursed arm or the benevolent spirits they've helped graduate. This way, they could access everything in one place instead of scattering them across various locations. Yaoi thought it was a great idea, but noted they'd need money to purchase a house. Aiko suggested buying an abandoned house since it would be cheaper. Yaoi looked into some options and found a conveniently located and affordable one. Together, they decided to check it out. The owner explained that the house used to belong to his father. However, since his father's death, everyone who moved in faced tragic accidents and even lost their lives. He recounted a particularly eerie incident where a female police officer came to investigate and, 10 days later, gave birth to a baby with an unusually large head. Both the mother and child tragically died shortly after. The owner warned them about the supposed curse and suggested they reconsider. However, both Yaoi and Aiko were determined to proceed despite the warning. Before entering the house, Yaoi noticed a ghost stepping inside. Concerned, she wondered whether the spirits in the house were benevolent or malevolent. As soon as they entered, they encountered the spirits of a father and daughter who had been the first tenants of the house. This pair had invited a wandering spirit inside, offered it poisoned water, and later threw it down a well, dousing it with gasoline before burning it alive. Aiko almost drank a cup of the poisoned water, but was stopped by Yaoi. They witnessed the wandering spirit being dragged and consumed by a malevolent spirit from the ceiling. Aiko saw it too, prompting Yaoi to head upstairs to confront it. On the second floor, the father and daughter spirits did not follow them. In the room where the malevolent spirit resided, Yaoi found a human skeleton and a child with an abnormally large head. It was the malevolent spirit. Yaoi pushed Aiko out of harm's way and decided to retreat downstairs. As they passed through the kitchen, they glimpsed the memories of the father and daughter. They once had a happy family life until a domestic argument led the father to accidentally push the mother, causing her to fall and fatally hit her head. Word spread about the incident, and the father and daughter were labeled murderers. Unable to bear the scorn, the daughter sought salvation and was approached by a ghostly monk who taught her a forbidden ritual. She violated a taboo with her father, resulting in the birth of a child. However, she killed the child to use it as a vessel for something she called an angel to save her soul. Yaoi deduced that the child had become the malevolent spirit, and the ritual altar they found upstairs was likely tied to this incident. Although the police had removed the remains, the spiritual residue persisted. Yaoi pieced together the sequence of events. The father and daughter used the mother's corpse to create an altar for summoning the angel. The daughter killed the child born from her forbidden act to create the angel and nurtured it within the mother's corpse. The series of murders committed afterward were to harvest human souls to feed the growing angel. Even after their deaths, the father and daughter continued these acts, targeting wandering spirits. However, Yaoi couldn't figure out why they persisted posthumously. Suddenly, the angel chased after them, forcing them to flee. As they reached the exit, the angel grabbed Aiko. Yaoi released a malevolent spirit from one of her dolls to devour the angel. Just as they entered their car, another angel appeared, pulling Aiko out while trapping Yaoi inside. The angel forced its way into Aiko's mouth, but Yaoi managed to escape and went to check on her. That's when Yaoi recalled the case of the police officer who died mysteriously. She realized that the father and daughter's actions continued post-mortem because the angel wasn't complete. Their ultimate goal was to possess someone else, making them pregnant to give birth to the fully formed angel. Most people who tried failed, so the father and daughter continued committing crimes until they successfully gave birth to the angel. Yaoi realized that even though the malevolent spirit had devoured the angel earlier, another angel was present because there were 3 angels in total. Meanwhile, Keita, who was recovering, received a call from Aiko. His 2 younger sisters handed him the phone, teasing him about his affectionate conversation with Aiko. Aiko didn't mention the recent events, as she only wanted to see Keita to gather the courage she needed before Yaoi began the ritual to lift her curse. Yaoi used Kishimagen's finger to stab the angel, observing that it absorbed the damage instead of Aiko. Relieved, she proceeded to repeatedly stab it until the angel was forced out of Aiko's body. However, even after being expelled, the angel left a lingering curse on Aiko. Yaoi then had the malevolent spirit devour the angel and decided to eliminate the final angel to break the curse completely. As they entered the house again, Aiko was suddenly tripped by the spirit of the daughter. Aiko experienced a hallucination where she saw herself giving birth to an angel. Thankfully, Yaoi snapped her out of it. Aiko stepped outside briefly but was suddenly transported to the edge of the well. Yaoi quickly called her to determine her location. By the time Yaoi realized what was happening, Aiko had already been pushed into the well, where she encountered the last angel. The angel began to haunt Aiko, but Yaoi arrived just in time and had the malevolent spirit devour it immediately. After rescuing Aiko from the well, Yaoi revealed that the angel had not been completely destroyed. During this time, the daughter became enraged and demanded her father sacrifice himself to the angel to restore its strength. However, she ended up being devoured instead. When Yaoi and Aiko reached the scene, the father pleaded with them to end this nightmare. He confessed he had no knowledge of the ritual his daughter was conducting and only followed her lead, hoping she would find salvation. He lamented that he should have guided her onto the right path instead of letting her fall into the clutches of a false religion, which ultimately led to her death while birthing the angel. Stricken by despair, the father hoped to die alongside his daughter. Suddenly, the angel bit off half of the father's body. Yaoi and Aiko narrowly avoided being caught in the attack. The malevolent spirit quickly dealt with the angel, but the curse mark on Aiko's abdomen remained. Realizing that something else was sustaining the curse, Aiko noticed an unusual object on the wall. Yaoi used her spiritual sight to examine it and found a small piece of wood containing a fragment of the mother's bone. After destroying it, the curse mark on Aiko vanished. The father begged to be allowed to die, but when Yaoi asked him how many people he had killed, he admitted that including his own suicide, the total was 17. Yaoi decided he couldn't move on and must stay behind to atone for his sins. She declared that he would become the guardian of the place. As they were leaving, Aiko saw the father replaying his death by hanging as a form of self-punishment. She commented that the scene was spooky enough to frighten trespassers, making him a fitting guardian for the property. Meanwhile, Keida's sisters were watching the news and learned about a train accident in which Mio was a victim. The accident occurred because Mio's god was fighting Kubu. The god easily countered Kubu's attacks, sending it crashing to the ground. However, the god quickly recognized Kubu's potential and gave it an eye to help it recover, showing it how to grow stronger. The god expressed interest in waiting for Kubu to fully develop so they could have more fun fighting. Later, Yaoi and Aiko visited Keida while he was still recovering. Their care was so excessive that it made him wish to be sick again just to escape their attention. They told him about buying a haunted house to store the malevolent spirits they had graduated. They encouraged Keida to get plenty of rest to recover by the next day, so they could visit another spiritual site together. However, their persistent presence annoyed Keida, so he eventually kicked them out of his room. As they left, Yaoi asked Aiko to stop by another location to pick up the next graduate spirit, the Evil Warren. Yaoi warned Aiko that this spirit would not submit as easily as the Demon Sergeant and advised caution in dealing with it. After retrieving the Evil Warren, the group planned to head to the Nexus rank location, an abandoned floodgate. During this time, Aiko asked Yaoi why she hadn't brought any graduated spirits with her when facing Kishimajin in the past. Yaoi explained that Kishimajin was bound by a specific rule. At the same time, Kubu confronted Kishimajin once again. The last time, it refrained from attacking because it feared her, but now it wanted to test its strength. Kubu absorbed the child spirits of Kishimajin and used a technique taught by the god to create countless arms that ensnared the spirits. When Kishimajin charged at Kubu, it realized her weakness: she would not attack children. By mimicking an infant, Kubu ensured that Kishimajin couldn't harm it. This was why Yaoi had previously faced Kishimajin alone. She would only be attacked by the child spirits, not Kishimajin herself. Kubu eventually became powerful enough to summon a body formed from Yaoi's mother's essence. This manifestation forced Yaoi's mother to devour Kishimajin to provide additional strength and give birth to Kubu. By absorbing a corrupted deity, Kubu underwent a significant evolution. The next day, Keida's group visited an abandoned love hotel, which had once been the hideout of a gang. The gang had abducted women, used the location to satisfy their desires, and then murdered them on sight. As a result, the hotel was haunted by the spirits of the women, each confined to a separate room. Their collective resentment had created a secret room which no one could access. However, Yayoi had discovered a method to enter the room, where she had previously hidden the evil Warren. When attempting to retrieve it, Yayoi found that the spirit had grown powerful enough to manipulate the secret room, only allowing those it favored to enter. As Yayoi was particularly despised by the spirit, she couldn't enter and needed Keida's help, as he was male. Yayoi gave Keida a piece of cloth imbued with a spirit's essence from the waterfall. Aiko carried the demon sergeant for support. As the three ventured inside, Keida was unexpectedly transported to a different dimension. Surrounded by an eerie ambience and seeing water oysters, Keida realized he had entered the brothel of the evil Warren. The only way to escape was to seal the spirit. Meanwhile, Yayoi and Aiko noticed Keida's absence. Using his tracker, they found that he hadn't physically left the hotel, but had been displaced to another dimension within the same location. Inside the spirit realm, Keida followed the initial instructions by switching the room's number plate. A female ghost entered the room, was killed, reset, and exited. Then, multiple shadowy figures emerged, leaving Keida confused about their behavior but determined to continue following the ghost. In the next step, Keida needed to close a door to prevent the ghost from entering. The ghost was trapped outside, but the shadowy figures surrounded the door. When Keida accidentally made a sound, they approached him. He rushed to the third step, switching the number plate of another room and leaving the door open. The ghost re-entered, but suddenly the hallway was flooded with eyes staring directly at Keida. As he was about to be attacked, the female ghost exited the room, restoring the hallway to normal. Keida then discovered the secret room but was grabbed by the ghost, forcing him to witness a reflection of himself. Realizing his body had been switched, Keida pushed the ghost away and returned to normal. He quickly entered the secret room. Inside, Keida found someone bound. As he approached, he realized it was Aiko. However, this Aiko behaved strangely, asking Keida to untie her. The cloth in Keida's pocket activated a curse on his neck, revealing that the figure before him wasn't Aiko, but the evil Warren. When the spirit realized her disguise had been uncovered, she dropped her act, grabbed Keida, and attempted to burn down the room. She began cursing Keida, forcing him to release her seal. Meanwhile, Yayoi and Aiko located the secret room and heard Keida's voice coming from inside. Keida quickly used the seal crafted from the hair of the long-haired evil spirit to restrain the evil Warren, but she attempted to stop him. At that moment, the female ghost entered the room. Hearing Keida in trouble, Yayoi captured the ghost and rushed in to assist him. Meanwhile, Aiko used the curse on her hand to sense Keida's presence and helped him pull the rope to apply an additional seal on the evil Warren. Keida was relieved to have escaped and expressed gratitude toward Aiko, acknowledging that he wouldn't have survived without her help. As Yayoi and Aiko left, Keida reflected on how formidable the evil Warren was. He noted that historically, Japanese courtesans were highly skilled individuals. While he respected her strength, he vowed not to let her tarnish Aiko's image in his eyes. As they returned to the car, Yayoi revealed that their main task was just beginning, leaving Keida stunned as he realized he had only completed the initial step. On the way, Keida asked Yayoi if leaving behind the female ghosts was problematic. Yayoi explained that these ghosts weren't as pitiable as they seemed. They had captured and exacted vengeance on the gang members who had killed them, locking the bodies in a cabinet. Once their revenge was complete, the ghosts would naturally move on. Keida then mentioned his earlier experience of having his body switched by a ghost. Yayoi explained that spiritual possessions had been documented long ago. If left untreated for 50 days, the evil spirit could completely take over the host's body. This also implied that society today might unknowingly harbor cases of evil spirits blending in as humans. Meanwhile, the story shifted to Oswald, the man who had placed the cursed hand at the waterfall. Oswald was visiting a gangster, seeking to lift the curse on a knife. The knife was cursed to harm its wielder, so Oswald had Shami, an elderly woman accompanying him, lift the curse instead. Shami used a mysterious powder to break the curse effortlessly. Before Oswald and Shami left, the gangster inquired if either of them had experienced a body swap, as reports of evil spirits switching bodies had become increasingly common. Since Oswald still retained his memories, the gangster believed him. However, after leaving, Oswald and Shami revealed themselves to be evil spirits inhabiting human bodies. These spirits favored possessing individuals with significant spiritual power, such as exorcists. By retaining the memories of their hosts, they seamlessly blended into human society. That afternoon, Keita's group arrived at the haunted abandoned floodgate and unexpectedly encountered Shami. Keita recognized her as a prominent figure in the spiritual community, known for her television appearances and videos about exorcism. Rumors even claimed she had entered an S-rank haunted bunker and emerged safely. However, no one knew that Shami had been possessed by the S-rank evil spirit from that bunker and had been masquerading ever since. Yaoi approached Shami, requesting to witness her power, but Keita and Aiko stopped her, feeling that such a sudden request was impolite. Keita found Shami suspicious. Shami warned them of the dangers in the area and offered to guide them if they wanted to survive. In reality, she intended to lead the group into a trap to devour them and dispose of a cursed object there. Aiko provided information about the location, known as the Red Floodgate. After the historic flood of 1924, locals constructed floodgates to regulate river levels. While new floodgates were later built, the old one remained as a historical monument. However, strange phenomena began occurring in the 1960s. People reported sightings of ghosts near corpses found at the site, shadowy figures over the water, and the silhouette of a woman on top of the floodgate. The suicide rate in the area also spiked unusually. A statue erected to commemorate those who drowned mysteriously lost its head. Yaoi and Shami began investigating the floodgate. The group soon encountered some children. While 3 of them went home, 1 child stayed behind, sitting in a corner and drawing. Keita approached the boy, encouraging him to go home, but the boy handed him a sketchbook. Keita glanced through the sketchbook and discovered the boy's tragic story. His mother had passed away, and his father brought another woman into the house, hoping the boy would get along with his stepmother. However, the stepmother constantly abused him. Despite the abuse, the boy remained silent to fulfill his father's wish of maintaining harmony in the family. The stepmother, however, went as far as locking the boy out on the freezing balcony and starving him. Witnessing the abuse, Keita decided to call Child Protective Services. But before he could act, the boy ran to sit by the river. Yaoi, unsure if the boy was a ghost or human, covered her spiritual eye to check and confirmed he was human. The boy urged Keita to keep looking through the sketchbook. Keita discovered that the stepmother was having an affair behind the father's back. When the father found out, the stepmother and her lover murdered him. They then did something mysterious in the house before handing the boy a box of meatballs, instructing him to throw it away. Starving, the boy decided to try one despite it tasting terrible. Keita was horrified, realizing the meatballs were made from the boy's father. But the story didn't end there. The stepmother later killed her lover and began chasing the boy to eliminate him as well. Keita realized that the boy standing before him had vanished. He had already been killed by his stepmother at the Red Floodgate. She stabbed him repeatedly until he succumbed to darkness. The boy later understood that both he and the lover had been turned into meatballs by the stepmother and thrown into the floodgate. Realizing the full truth, the boy let out a deafening scream. Yaoi discovered that the boy had used light manipulation to deceive her spiritual eye. In truth, the boy had become an extremely powerful evil spirit. Keita initially thought the boy wanted to share his sorrow through the sketchbook, but that wasn't the case. The ghostly figure rumored to appear atop the floodgate was the stepmother, whom the boy had hung there by the neck. The stepmother's ghost attacked Keita, but Shami destroyed it. However, the boy's spirit quickly retaliated, severing Shami's arm and dragging her to the floodgate, where he hung her as well. The boy had been hanging his victims at the floodgate and turning them into meatballs, just as his stepmother had done to him. He then crushed Shami completely. Keita realized the boy didn't seek pity, he was consumed by pure rage. Yaoi observed the boy eating Shami's remains, which made him even stronger. It became evident that this boy was the strongest S-rank spirit they had ever faced. The group realized they had been drawn into the sketchbook. If their images in the book were shaded black, they would be turned into meatballs, becoming a source of power for the boy. While decoys might buy some time, once consumed, there was no saving them. Even the spirits of graduated exorcists were no match for the sketchbook's curse. Yaoi rushed forward to seize the sketchbook, but was caught by the boy's extending arms. She used the maternal finger relic to resist, but was soon overpowered and hung up as well. Keita was also captured, leaving only Aiko. Keita urged Aiko to use her dolls to save Yaoi. Aiko ran, but the boy darkened her sketch, forcing the cursed spirits in her dolls to take the damage. Aiko, however, had a backup slime doll at home capable of enduring more attacks. She quickly rescued Yaoi, and the two returned to free Keita. As they left the floodgate, Yaoi realized Aiko had been drawn into a vision of the room where the stepmother and her lover had turned the boy's father into meatballs. Yaoi broke into the room using a crowbar and had her spirit-infused doll bite off the heads of the two evil spirits. The entire room and its illusions were creations of the boy. Meanwhile, Keita was being submerged in rising water, threatening to drown him. Aiko came up with an idea, and Yaoi rushed to save Keita. The boy immediately targeted Yaoi, but Aiko tied a hair rope to a rock and attacked him. The sketchbook fell into the water, giving the group a chance to escape. However, the boy transformed into a combat form. Yaoi resorted to summoning the graduated exorcist spirits, but even they struggled against the boy. The sergeant spirit held back because the boy was a child, leaving the evil Warren as their last option. Yaoi hesitated, fearing the evil Warren might turn against her. To provoke the spirit into attacking the boy, Yaoi allowed it to take a direct hit from him. The evil Warren was released and revealed her true form. A year ago, Yaoi had found a mirror at a flea market and discovered the Warren trapped within it. She brought the mirror home, and shortly after, the Warren absorbed all the evil spirits Yaoi had captured, eventually evolving into a graduated spirit. The boy attacked the evil Warren, tearing off a piece of her skin. However, one of his arms aimed at Yaoi, forcing Keita to shield her and pull her aside. Yaoi noticed the boy had become increasingly difficult to deal with due to his hardened body and lightning-fast attacks. Moreover, when he struck a target, he would take parts of their body to turn into meatballs, further enhancing his power. Despite this, the evil Warren began to grow angry. She unleashed her curse, prompting Yaoi to warn Keita and Aiko not to touch the butterflies. These butterflies would drain the energy of anything they came into contact with, transferring it to the Warren to heal her. Soon, the boy's arm was completely drained of energy by the evil Warren. At this point, the Warren's second curse activated the plague. This curse originated from her past. Born into a poor family, the Warren used her unparalleled beauty to make a living, draining the life force of those around her to maintain her looks. However, the boy quickly gathered all the nearby corpses, devoured them to recover his strength, and lunged at the Warren, shattering her arm. Yet, she immediately absorbed the boy's energy to regenerate herself. Enraged, the boy crushed her head, but she kept regenerating. Yaoi realized that if the Warren's body were completely destroyed, it could ruin everything. She retrieved the mirror to show the Warren her current hideous form, triggering the third curse. The Warren suddenly went berserk, screaming in fury. In life, she had been the top courtesan of her brothel. One day, the brothel master brought in a new girl for her to mentor. Over time, the Warren was bought out of the brothel by a lord, but the girl she had trained betrayed her. The girl poisoned the lord, leading him to mistakenly beat the Warren so severely that she lost her beauty. The Warren spent all her money trying to restore her appearance but failed. The girl she had mentored came back to gloat, revealing that she had been the one to destroy the Warren's life. In a fit of vengeance, the Warren doused the girl in kerosene and set her on fire. This deep hatred birthed her ultimate curse, hellfire. The Warren trapped the boy in a fiery barrier. The butterflies flew around, draining energy from the boy to sustain the flames. The only way for the boy to escape was if the Warren ran out of energy or was sealed away. The boy tried to recover by absorbing surrounding spirits, but they were incinerated before turning into meatballs. The smoke from the burning entities continued to restore the Warren's strength. Desperate, the boy made a final attempt to attack the Warren, but succumbed to the combined effects of the three curses, his body breaking apart. No longer able to fight, the boy fell. Yaoi saw an opportunity to seal the Warren while she was reveling in her victory, but the Warren remained cautious and didn't lower her guard. Yaoi summoned the waterfall spirit for assistance. The spirit quickly created a barrier to destroy the butterflies targeting Yaoi's group. Yaoi worried that if the Warren transformed all the flames into butterflies, they would face insurmountable difficulty. The Warren, as if reading her thoughts, did exactly that. Yaoi instructed the waterfall spirit to attack the Warren's eyes. Without her sight, the butterflies could no longer target accurately. The waterfall spirit continued eliminating butterflies near Keita and Aiko, buying enough time for Keita to successfully seal the warren before the swarm could overwhelm him. As she was being sealed, the warren cursed them, vowing that when she broke free, she would drain the blood of all three. Yaoi bid farewell to the waterfall spirit, promising to return and make offerings to her next time. Afterward, Yaoi approached the boy and asked if he was still hungry. If so, she told him to follow her, and she would satisfy his hunger. The boy, having grown bored of staying there and creating more schemes, decided to follow Yaoi. The group then discovered Shami's handbag and found another cursed arm inside. Yaoi suspected that Shami had been possessed by an evil spirit, so they decided to call the police to clean up the area. The police arrived to assess the situation and decided to bring Keita's group to the station for questioning. However, the evil spirit possessing Shami clung to the roof of Aiko's car to follow them to the station, seeking an opportunity to consume them. After giving their statements, Keita unexpectedly encountered another woman who introduced herself as Shami's twin sister. She accused the group of killing her sister because she saw Yaoi carrying an evil spirit on her hand. Yaoi realized that Shami's sister was highly skilled in spiritual matters and could sense her abilities. The sister invited Yaoi to join her family, but Yaoi declined. The sister revealed that she had known for a long time that her younger twin was possessed, as anyone with spiritual sight could see the difference in aura before and after possession. Smart evil spirits often chose hosts with matching auras to blend in. For ordinary people like Keita, it was necessary to observe behavior closely to detect possession. The sister wasn't too saddened by her siblings passing, as her twin had never been very proficient in spiritual matters and had leveraged media attention to gain fame, which made her an easy target. While not deeply mourning, the sister expressed deep hatred for the spirits, vowing to send every last one of them to hell. She gave Yaoi her business card for contact and exchanged information with her. As Yaoi's group left, 2 officers stayed behind at the scene to clean up evidence. They suddenly encountered a little girl wandering inside the station late at night. When they pursued her, the evil spirit that had possessed Shami cursed them and decapitated them. The following morning, several police officers were found in a state of insanity. Their brains were riddled with holes, their bodies decomposing. The only visible injury was a broken finger used to write the word head on the ground before their deaths. They succumbed hours later, with the cause of death officially listed as unknown. The previous night, after the spirit wreaked havoc at the station, Oswald arrived to retrieve it. A girl who had come to collect the evil spirit expressed interest in meeting Yaoi's group after hearing the spirit's account of them. Upon returning, Yaoi and Aiko discovered news about Mio being in the midst of a battle between gods and Kubu. Yaoi called Keita to arrange a plan to assist Mio. Keita reminded Yaoi about her upcoming return to school, which made her lose her composure. Eventually, she relented and left, visibly upset. Keita knew her distress was due to Kubu's involvement, so he decided to plan a visit to Mio over the weekend. The next morning, Yaoi returned to school, unsure of what the gods intended by aiding Kubu's recovery. Suddenly, she ran into a schoolmate, Dorothy, who was possessed by an evil spirit and allied with Oswald. Dorothy, having heard about Yaoi from the spirit that had possessed Shami, wanted to test Yaoi's abilities. Seeing that Yaoi always carried an evil spirit, Dorothy struck up a conversation and invited her to explore paranormal phenomena at school, claiming she could see spirits too. In class, Yaoi was glued to her phone, prompting the class president to complain. A classmate mocked Yaoi for believing in ghosts. Yaoi, wanting to settle it with a fight, was interrupted by Dorothy, who proposed ghost hunting instead. The group agreed, but the class president found Dorothy's sudden openness suspicious, as she had always been timid before. After school, the group gathered, and Dorothy recounted the 7 mysteries of the school. The first was the ghost of Hanako in the restroom. However, the delinquent boy and Yaoi tried summoning Hanako, but nothing happened. The group continued visiting other locations, encountering nothing major, until they reached the final destination. Dorothy revealed to Yaoi that she had engraved seals to lure all the ghosts in the school to this place, where they would be devoured by a bloodthirsty ghost, creating an evil spirit with immense malice. Dorothy handed a key to the delinquent boy to open the door. Before Yaoi could stop him, the ghost's malevolent energy erupted throughout the school, rendering both students and teachers unconscious. Inside her mind, Yaoi witnessed the tragic story of a tormented teacher's spirit. This teacher had been relentlessly bullied by his class. They vandalized his desk, threw rocks at his head, and even destroyed his car. Adding to his misery, the principal accused him of secretly photographing female students, a false accusation set up by others. His wife divorced him, plunging him into despair. Ultimately, the teacher committed suicide, cursing the students who had ruined his life. However, his lingering resentment was weak and was on the verge of dissipating, until Dorothy directed malevolent energy toward him, turning him into an evil spirit. Meanwhile, Dorothy regained consciousness, curious to see how Yaoi would save everyone from this deadly game of hide and seek. The delinquent boy, hiding in a restroom stall, heard the teacher's ghost searching for him. Although the ghost checked every stall, when it reached the boys, it seemed to glance briefly and move on. Thinking it was safe, the boy stepped out, only to discover that the teacher had only sent the lower half of his body away, leaving the upper half behind to ambush him. A flock of crows descended upon the boy, consuming him. He awoke, screaming apologies repeatedly. Elsewhere, the others were being pursued, while Yaoi confronted the teacher's ghost, allowing her evil spirit to consume him. However, the teacher appeared to be regenerating, leading Yaoi to conclude that as long as they remained in this space, the teacher could not be destroyed. The class president, trying to escape the school, found herself inexplicably returned to the back entrance. She then discovered that the delinquent boy had been captured and deduced that anyone whose candle was extinguished by the teacher would be cursed. Later, she encountered Yaoi and called out to her. Yaoi decided to regroup with the president at the stairwell near the shoe lockers. Feeling uneasy, the class president asked Yaoi to stay on the phone for conversation. During their chat, Yaoi asked about the worst thing the president had ever done. The president confessed to skipping school, but the teacher's ghost reminded her of how she had fabricated photos to slander him. As the teacher prepared to blow out her candle, the president knocked it over but was still caught. At that moment, Yaoi arrived and unleashed her evil spirit to deal with the teacher. After hearing the president's account, Yaoi theorized there might be a win condition, likely connected to the room where the teacher had committed suicide. On their way there, the president was caught again, forcing Yaoi to drop her candle and let her evil spirit consume the teacher once more. The two repeatedly encountered the teacher, requiring Yaoi's spirit to fight him off continuously. Upon reaching the suicide room, the president noticed numerous photographs, including one of herself. She snatched it and unexpectedly escaped the nightmare. Yaoi realized that retrieving one's photograph was the key to escaping. Confronting the teacher again, Yaoi's evil spirit tore him in half, but he still managed to blow out her candle using a candle in his mouth. Yaoi swiftly grabbed her photograph and escaped the nightmare. However, others remained unconscious. Yaoi opened the door to the room in the real world and discovered a mass of flesh that seemed to be the teacher's true form. She commanded her evil spirit to consume it and found the teacher's soul within. Yaoi advised him to move on. Despite his deep hatred for the students, the teacher admitted he still loved them. Finally, he let go of his resentment and passed on peacefully. Yaoi's evil spirit unexpectedly evolved to a higher level after this encounter. She realized that it could evolve through battles and decided to name it Masakato. Yaoi asked the spirit if it still wished to serve her, and it agreed. She allowed it to return to its stuffed animal form. Rescue teams and the police arrived, and the unconscious students awakened. While they were physically unharmed, the students who had been hunted by the teacher's ghost were left deeply traumatized. After the incident, the school was temporarily closed, which was a significant advantage for Yaoi. However, it turned out that Dorothy had intended for the school to close all along so she could join her allies in investigating Kubu. Yaoi now realized that this Dorothy was no longer the same girl she once knew. Dorothy's body had been possessed by an evil spirit. Yaoi decided to pretend that she, too, was a spirit possessing a body. She chose the identity of a ghost killed in the hotel that once imprisoned the evil Warren. This deception was meant to allow her to approach Dorothy and investigate the entire organization of possessed spirits while determining their connection to Kubu. At the same time, Yaoi planned to exact revenge on them for daring to harm her school and her friends. While preparing for this plan, Yaoi heard Aiko's voice and left. Aiko unexpectedly ran into the class president, who was searching for Yaoi to express her gratitude. The class president confessed her fascination with Yaoi, especially after being saved by her. Aiko noticed that the president's interest in Yaoi resembled her own feelings toward Keita. She told the president that if she ever needed advice, she could always call Aiko. On her way home, Yaoi called Shami and informed her that she had just encountered someone possessed by a spirit and learned they had allies. She also shared her suspicion that Dorothy's easy access to her suggested that Dorothy's allies must be formidable. Yaoi planned to prepare thoroughly to extract information. She also decided to install cameras on her 2 cursed arms to identify the possessed individuals and send the footage to Shami, who could lead a team to hunt them down. Shami agreed to the plan, determined to avenge her sister. Meanwhile, Keita managed to contact Mio and check on her condition. He decided to visit her with the group soon and reassured her not to worry about causing them bad luck, as Yaoi could handle it all. However, after obtaining the hospital address, Keita learned about what Yaoi had been through. Most perplexing to him was why Yaoi needed to install 30 cameras in his room. Yaoi, on the other hand, was reassessing the power of the god possessing Mio. Initially, she thought she could weaken and defeat it by using 6 graduation-level spirits and cursing the god. However, she now knew the god had 12 subordinates, and Yaoi currently had only 7 spirits strong enough to match the graduation level. 1. The monk, 2. The demon sergeant, 3. Evil Warren, 4. The waterfall spirit, 5. The axe-wielding evil spirit, 6. The meatball boy, 7. Masakato, newly evolved. Yaoi's plan involved using 5 graduation-level spirits to create a barrier that would encompass all of Kyoto, trapping the god inside. Then, the demon sergeant and evil courtesan would weaken the god. Once it was contained within the barrier, she would retrieve the 5 spirits and launch a full-force attack on the god. Keita was concerned that the curse could affect Kyoto's residents. Yaoi took responsibility for this by planning to create 2 sacrificial entities, one to absorb the curse and protect the residents, and another to transfer all the curses to the god. The critical condition was that they had to inscribe this mark on the god, which would be achieved through the waterfall spirit. This spirit could attack from a distance and leave unhealable wounds. In summary, once the curse and barrier were activated, all the curses would circulate through the 2 sacrificial entities and into the god once the mark was inscribed. The team would prepare thoroughly for this battle. During their upcoming trip to Kyoto to visit Mio, the group planned to conquer 5 of the most dangerous spiritual hotspots in Kyoto to set up the points for the ritual barrier. Yaoi warned that the risks were high, but so were the rewards. She emphasized that the upcoming battle could cost them their lives and asked Keita and Aiko to think carefully. If they were resolute, they should give her their answer the following day. That night, Aiko called Yaoi to her room. She showed Yaoi a decoy body made of slime, which could absorb significant damage. Aiko had also set up a storage space in the room in case Yaoi needed it. Seeing how Aiko had only recently started interacting with the spiritual world, yet already thought so far ahead, Yaoi acknowledged her as a worthy assistant. Meanwhile, Keita, despite knowing the road ahead would be fraught with even greater dangers, already had his answer. It had never wavered. That night, Mio, excited about everyone coming to visit her, fell asleep and dreamed of herself dressed as a bride, meeting her mother and aunt. However, Mio soon remembered that her aunt had passed away long ago. Immediately, she was transported to a hospital, where she found herself being forced to wear the bridal outfit of the god. The god then stole her face and memories. Terrified, Mio woke up in tears, overwhelmed by fear. The next morning, Keita arrived at Aiko's house to set off with her and Yaoi. He revealed that he had created a cage capable of remotely sealing graduation-level evil spirits. However, it would require Aiko to upgrade it to extend its range. Yaoi, meanwhile, brought offerings to the waterfall spirit to seek her permission to accompany them to Kyoto for the mission. Yaoi then led Keita and Aiko to the abandoned house Aiko had purchased, where she discarded her cursed right arm into a well. She decided to keep the left arm with her. The reasoning was that the possessed spirits were aware that Yaoi had the cursed right arm, which was why they sent Dorothy to approach her. If they attempted to retrieve the right arm, Yaoi could gather more information. On the other hand, they had no knowledge that Yaoi had lifted the curse on the waterfall spirit and retained the left arm, allowing her to limit the information they could extract. Meanwhile, Oswald decided to disregard the cursed right arm altogether. Their focus was on traveling to Kyoto to observe Kubu's progress, as they wanted to avoid any involvement with the god to steer clear of trouble. Yaoi's group had completed all preparations and began their journey. Shami had assembled her hunting team, ready to act as soon as new information became available. The god, on the other hand, awaited Yaoi's group, ready for their eventual confrontation. The battle between humans and gods is set to continue in Part 2, to be released in the future. For now, farewell.